Chapter 738. Hu. After absorbing the spiritual energy of the entire demon spirit stone, Lin Muyu couldn't help but sigh and spit out a mouthful of turbid air. If the turbid energy within the demon spirit stone was not spat out, it would be harmful to the human body, even if one was a god. At this moment, Lin Muyu only felt that the divine power within her body had never been filled before. The opportunity must not be missed, now was the time. Lin Muyu had already seen through Si Kongyao's peeping, but in her heart, she thought that although this Tianji sect's eldest daughter was ruthless, she only dealt with evil people and had no enmity towards her, so she just let her watch. In any case, something like the spirit refining art couldn't be learned just by watching. So what if she learned it? In any case, she wouldn't be able to use it as well as she could. She circulated the supreme divine power within her sea of qi, and suddenly, layers upon layers of waves began to surge. The divine power within her sea of qi was like a heaven-reaching tower. There were a total of 21 layers. Under the master's guidance, the divine power flowed through her entire body and finally began to attack the profound entrances within her sea of qi. The first profound entrance was easily broken through, followed by the second, the third, all the way until the 22nd profound entrance. Lin Muyu already felt an extreme pain coming from her body, and her forehead was also dripping with sweat. Sure enough, after stepping into the god realm, wanting to advance every step was so difficult. It was no wonder that many people were stuck in the same realm for hundreds or even thousands of years. Boom, 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 the waves in her sea of qi were tens of thousands of zhang high, and the divine waves that were infused with the spiritual energy of the demon spirit stone crazily attacked the 22nd profound entrance that sealed her sea of qi. That profound entrance was like a deep blue iron wall, and no matter how the divine waves attacked, it remained motionless. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown, and once again increased her strength by 10%. She had to go all out, even if it hurt her body, she had to break through. Sure enough, with just this 10% increase in strength, a bang sound was heard, and the deep blue iron wall profound entrance in her sea of qi was finally broken. Endless waves of divine power flowed into her 4 meridians and 8 meridians. It was as comfortable as opening the conception and governor vessels in Wuxia novels. Buzz buzz buzz, the faint sound of waves even penetrated through her body, and Lin Muyu's power was not completely restrained at this time. Golden supreme divine power lingered around her body. Fortunately, she did not involuntarily release the law spirit beads, otherwise, Si Kongyao would definitely be able to see through it. Oh my god, Si Kongyao was also a cultivator. She couldn't help but ask in surprise, young hero, you've broken through? Yes. Lin Muyu opened her eyes, nodded, and said, eldest miss, in my hometown, peeping at others practicing martial arts is a big taboo. Oh. Si Kongyao blinked her beautiful eyes, and just made an oh sound without saying anything. It seemed that her peeping here was so natural and justified that Lin Muyu couldn't refute anything. The depths of her body were filled with extravasated blood. This time, Lin Muyu had already suffered a small internal injury. She needed to adjust her breath for a period of time to recover, so she didn't try to break through to the 23rd layer of the heavenly abode. Even if she tried, it would probably be impossible to succeed. According to the speed at which the demon spirit stone was absorbing power, Lin Muyu could also roughly estimate that at least 3 to 5 venerable demon spirit stones would be needed to help her break through to the 23rd layer of the heavenly abode. Moreover, the spiritual power in her sea of qi was currently extremely abundant. There was no need to refine demon spirit stones at all. She had to wait for this feeling of fullness to disappear before she could continue to rely on absorbing power to cultivate. After all, cultivation was a matter of oneself. Blindly relying on external gains may eventually cause one to be unable to control the power in one's body. This kind of example could be seen everywhere in the ancient books on the continent. Si Kongyao seemed to also see that Lin Muyu had suffered an internal injury, and said, you go and rest for a while, I'll keep watch for you tonight. Eldest Miss Sikong will keep watch for us tonight? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Then Bai and I really have quite a lot of face. However, I still have to thank Eldest Mississippi. You go and sleep, there's no need to keep watch. It's very safe here. It's hard to say. Si Kongyao shook her head, and said, demon spirits are good at concealing their aura and disguising themselves. Even sacred martial venerables and even sacred martial kings sometimes find it hard to detect demon spirits, so it's better to have someone keep watch. Alright then. Seeing that she was determined, Lin Muyu said, then you keep watch, I'll go and sleep for a while. I'll keep watch for the second half of the night. Go. The night wind grew colder and colder. Si Kongyao turned around and landed on the branch of the pine tree that Lin Muyu had just been sitting on. She laid down lightly, and her clothes slowly fluttered in the wind. In the blink of an eye, her aura had already become invisible, as if her entire person had already become one with the pine tree. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown as she sat in the tent. Si Kongyao's aura concealing ability was similar to Bai Yin's turtle breathing technique. Even her own spirit pulse technique would find it hard to detect her aura. This celestial pole continent was indeed full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. She really didn't know how many experts and absolute arts there were that she didn't know about. Furthermore, when Si Kongyao had fought with the assassin, the ice profound arts she had used weren't that tyrannical. Even the ice profound arts Si Kongyao had used could be so terrifying. If it was the legendary sacred martial god, Si Kongming, who personally used it, how many moves would she be able to block? 3 moves, or maybe 5 moves. Perhaps 10 moves would already be her limit. Thinking of this, she suddenly felt that it was necessary to form a good relationship with this little girl, Si Kongyao. She was the apple of Si Kongming's eye. If Si Kongyao stood her ground against the opinions of the masses, perhaps Si Kongming and the entire Tianji sect would withdraw from the Tianji Empire's invasion of the Shattered Cauldron world. That would be the best result, although it would be very difficult. The injuries in her body were slowly being healed by the Supreme Divine Power. The Supreme Divine Power had a part of the attribute of Fushi's Divine Power, so there was no need to doubt its own healing ability. She unknowingly fell asleep. She didn't know how long she had slept for, but she was suddenly awakened by the whistling wind outside. Lin Muyu opened her eyes. No, it wasn't just the sound of the wind. There seemed to be a woman's delicate shout and the whistling sound of divine power in the wind. Something had happened outside. Lin Muyu hurriedly turned over and flew out with the star's sword. However, she saw Si Kongyao waving a thin sword not far away and fighting with a giant beast. No, that's not right. How is that a giant beast? It's clearly a 20-meter-tall giant covered in stone skin and covered in flames. With a roar, it fiercely smashed its iron fists onto Si Kongyao's sword. Young mistress, be careful. Liu Bai was already outside and shouted loudly. However, he didn't dare to go forward to help. Bang! The flames surged. The stone giant's huge iron fist blasted Si Kongyao and her sword away. She was embedded into the stone wall like a cannonball. The divine power shattered. This blow was enough to injure Si Kongyao. Oh no! How could Lin Muyu care so much? She raised her long sword and flew over. With a glance, she saw that the neck of the stone giant was intertwined with fiery red and green. It's a demon king rank demon spirit. No wonder it could defeat Si Kongyao, who has a cultivation of 27 heavenly abode stage. Dragon armor. Lin Muyu shouted and began to summon a Catasaurus from the different space. She opened her arms, but after nearly half a minute, a Catasaurus finally crawled out from the different space. It disintegrated into dragon armor and attached itself to its master's body. Both of its hands held the sword and with a shout, the 2 martial souls disintegrated into the 7 luminaries' immortal sword. This is the most unusual thing about Lin Muyu. The people of the celestial pole continent only cultivate martial arts and not martial souls. At this moment, Lin Muyu looked like a different species. What is that? Si Kongyao didn't get up from the rubble. She just watched as Lin Muyu entered her strongest battle state. She didn't even know what the shining sword that Lin Muyu summoned was. Shua! The sword light swept across the sky and left a trail of flames on the stone giant's shoulder. However, its stone skin was too hard and couldn't be cut through. This was a very awkward problem. Roar! The stone giant demon king roared. Its fist turned into a phantom and flew over at lightning speed. Lin Muyu's figure retreated, and her boots abruptly stomped on a boulder. Using the momentum, she activated falling star steps and disappeared from her original spot in an instant. The stone mountain behind her was instantly flattened by the demon king's heavy punch, and the entire mountain that was 20 meters tall rolled down like a landslide. Liu Bai was so frightened that he hugged his head and shouted, "God bless me, this young man greets you." Boom! The iron fist came again, but it still only hit an afterimage. This time, Lin Muyu used Shatter Void. Her whole body instantly appeared on top of the stone giant's head. She held the star's sword and descended from the sky. Like a phantom, she launched a series of slashes from the stone giant demon king's head to its legs. Under the sword marks, Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. What a strong defense! This stone giant was simply invincible. Obviously, the destructive power of her level 22 Grotto Heaven was not enough to break through the stone skin that was as hard as iron. The divine power in her body had already been consumed by 1/3. She couldn't continue to attack like this. Shua! The fist came again. Lin Muyu quickly retreated, but she was still hit by the wind from the fist. Pa! She slammed heavily onto the stone mountain. She was in a sorry state. When she raised her head, she saw the stone giant roaring. It actually opened its mouth. Lin Muyu's eyes lit up. She jumped up from the ground like a star and threw the sword in her hand. With a "pu" sound, the sword flew into the stone giant's mouth. Under the control of the sword technique, the inside of the stone giant's throat was almost instantly crushed. Buzz buzz buzz, Lin Muyu raised her arm and a blazing sun condensed in her palm, Stars Art's purple sun. No! Among the rubble, Si Kongyao suddenly stood up and shouted, "Don't kill it." That's my dummy, but the wind was too loud, and the stone giant demon king's roar was even louder. Lin Muyu couldn't hear it at all. She held the power of the purple sun and blasted it straight into the demon king's mouth. The next moment, the purple sun exploded, and almost half of the stone giant's head was blown off. Boom! The huge body fell to the side of the valley, and the dust flew everywhere. Lin Muyu turned around and asked with concern, "Miss Sikong, what did you say just now? I didn't hear it. Are you okay?" Si Kongyao's tears flowed out of her eyes. She was angry and regretful, but it was too late. There was no medicine for regret in this world. Chapter 739. Dummy? Lin Muyu stood on the head of the stone giant demon king's corpse and asked in confusion, "What happened? Miss, do you know this demon king?" Si Kongyao walked to the side of the stone giant's corpse in 2 or 3 steps. She lay on its huge arm and started bawling. As she sobbed, she said, "Dummy was the most obedient. He did whatever I wanted him to do. I just wanted to test your strength. I didn't think that you would actually kill Dummy. Dummy was so kind, but you actually killed him." Liu Bai walked forward and whispered, "Young hero, you might not know this, but I've heard some rumors before. Some rich people would raise demon spirits, and the Tianji sect's main altar raised a stone giant demon spirit. It has already cultivated to the demon king realm. It seems to be true, but when it comes to you, the legend has already ended. How would Lin Muyu know that this demon king was raised?" She felt a little guilty and said, Miss Sikong, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I was just worried that it would hurt you, so I didn't hold back. Sikong Yao cried her eyes out and said, I don't blame you. I only blame myself for acting smart and harming Dummy instead. Then, what do we do now? Lin Muyu looked at the Demon King's head. The Demon Spirit Stone seemed to be calling out to her. Although this dummy was raised by the Sikong family, it would be too wasteful to ignore the Demon Spirit Stone. Sikong Yao wiped her tears and said, I want to bury Dummy, bury? Lin Muyu was stunned. How are you going to bury a body that weighs over 100 tons? Even if you dig a hole, it shouldn't be so big. I don't care. I want to bury it anyway. Sikong Yao cried and threw a tantrum. At this time, she finally looked like a young girl, willful and unreasonable. Alright, bury it then. How do you want to bury it? Lin Muyu was in the wrong and naturally couldn't be too forceful. She could only accommodate her. Sikong Yao wiped her tears and said, I'm going to cremate it. Cremation? Lin Muyu felt dizzy. Whether the body of this stone man could be burned was another matter. Even if it was burned, there would be residue left. How could she cremate it? Where was it buried? There were rocks everywhere in this valley, and there was only a little soil on the ground. There was no way to dig a hole. After saying that, Sikong Yao turned around and flew up, her long hair messy in the air. Where are you going? I'm looking for firewood, Sikong Yao said quietly. The sadness on her face did not recede at all. It was true that Sikong Yao cultivated the ice mystic arts of the ice elemental precept. She did not have much attainment in the fire elemental precept. It was impossible for her to rely on the fire elemental precept to burn Dummy's corpse. Then come back early. We'll stay here and guard Dummy's body, Lin Muyu said. Yes. Sikong Yao nodded. A flash of lightning flashed in the air. She had already teleported away. Now, what should we do? Lu Bai muttered to himself. His face was full of an unfathomable expression. What else can we do? Lin Muyu said lightly, do things according to our own rules. After saying that, he stretched out his hand and gently grabbed at the air. He directly absorbed Dummy's demon spirit stone into his hand and put it into his Qianquan bag. Then he looked at the body of the stone giant. The stone skin seemed to be slowly cracking, forming pieces of benzene about 1 meter in diameter. Lin Muyu had seen how hard Dummy's stone skin was. Even the star's sword infused with his supreme divine power couldn't split it. It was imaginable how hard it was. It was probably even harder than a 10,000-year-old dragon armor. It was worthy of the Demon King's defense. His heart was moved. If this benzene piece was used as a shield, what else could pierce through it? When two armies confronted each other, whether it was spears, swords, arrows, or crossbows, they would probably be helpless against this kind of iron wall. He opened the Qianquan bag and swept around Dummy's body like a whirlwind. He put the stone skin armor into the bag one by one. He counted in his heart. When he finished picking up all of them, he got about 400 hard stone skin armor. He was in a very good mood. Lu Bai was stunned at the side. He said, young hero, this dummy is Sikong Yao's pet. It's fine to kill him. But you still did this. Can you face your own conscience? If conscience can make a meal, I will definitely not let it down. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. He smiled and said, my conscience has always been towards my own people, not towards my enemies. Sikong Yao is destined not to be one of us. Why? Lu Bai was stunned. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder lightly and said, some things, you will naturally understand in the future. Don't ask. The less you know, the better it is for you. It's best if you don't know anything. Bai, take a step back. I want to burn Dummy's body. Oh, Lu Bai quickly retreated. Lin Muyu flew up and stopped in midair. Looking at the huge corpse of Dummy, he couldn't help but frown. He opened his palm slightly, and suddenly, a fire elemental spirit pearl appeared between his palms. In the next moment, raging flames descended from the sky and began to devour Dummy's body. The sovereign persona had the ability to control all elemental laws. The intensity of the raging flames that Lin Muyu summoned was in no way inferior to the power of a fire elemental master god. In addition, after Dummy's death, his body had lost the protection of spiritual power. His defense was completely incomparable to when he was alive. In an instant, the fat and other substances in his body began to burn, and the flames soared into the sky. In just the time it took for a joss stick to burn, the 100-ton demon king-tier stone giant was reduced to ashes on the ground. Even its bones were burned by Lin Muyu. The whole valley was filled with an unpleasant smell. Liu Bai covered his nose and frowned. He didn't even have the mood to talk. Lin Muyu raised his sword and continued to take Dummy's demon spirit stones. She had to do something for it. The blade of the sword glowed with the light of stars, and with a pang-pang-pang sound, a large pit was blasted on the rocky ground. Then, she summoned the wind elemental spirit pearl, and a strong wind swept Dummy's ashes into the big pit. In the blink of an eye, the big pit was already a pile of ashes. At this time, the sun rose from the east, and the sky was bright. A huge black shadow flew in the sky. It was Si Kongyao. She was holding dozens of vines in her hands, and she was carrying a large bundle of firewood that didn't match her size at all. This shocked Lin Muyu and Liu Bai. Si Kongyao had brought dozens of tons of firewood. There was probably nothing in this world that Si Kongyao didn't dare to do. Originally, they thought that she was just being unreasonable, but now it seemed that she really meant what she said. She really wanted to cremate Dummy's body. Bang! The huge bundle of firewood fell in the valley. Si Kongyao stood in the wind blankly and asked, "Where's Dummy?" "I helped you cremate it." Lin Muyu pointed to the big pit at the side and said, "There's still a fingernail that hasn't been burned. Do you want to keep it as a memento?" "No need." Si Kongyao's eyes were full of confusion, and said, "Where did you get the firewood to cremate Dummy?" "With just divine power, I'm afraid that even a sacred martial king's divine power wouldn't be enough to completely burn Dummy's huge body, right?" This, Lin Muyu frowned and said, "His body is just very flammable. I used a little flame and it burned on its own." Si Kongyao squinted her beautiful eyes and stared at Lin Muyu for a few seconds, and said, "Forget it, I won't pursue it. Since you helped Dummy cremate, I thank you." "You're welcome, it's what I should do." Liu Bai rubbed his belly and said, "You guys don't have to be so polite. Let's go somewhere else to cook. I'm starving." "Okay." Lin Muyu turned her head, but at this moment, a shrill cry came from the sky. It was very familiar. It was a wolf falcon. Again? Liu Bai frowned and said, "These dragon knights are really haunting us. Let's quickly hide in the cave. Maybe they won't find us." "It's no use. Since the wolf falcon found us, the dragon knights shouldn't be far away. However, before the dragon knights arrive, we still have time to eat breakfast, and breakfast came to us on its own." "What do you mean?" Si Kongyao frowned slightly. She couldn't hear what these two were saying at all. "Just wait for your delicious meal, Miss Sikong." Liu Bai smiled obsequiously. Whoosh! A fist-sized rock flew out, and the wolf falcon in the air fell to the ground with a sad cry. Lin Muyu flew over and returned with the wolf falcon's corpse. She said, "Let's go out of the valley and start a fire. The dragon knights should be here in about an hour." "Okay." After leaving the valley, they found a small stream under the rocks. After plucking the wolf falcon's feathers and gutting it, they skillfully roasted it over the bonfire. They sprinkled cumin and oil over it, and before long, the aroma filled the air. Lin Muyu had been hungry for a long time, and she was full of anticipation as she waited to eat. Si Kongyao stood at the side with a look of amusement and helplessness. These two were really too daring. They even dared to eat the Tianji Dragon Knight's exclusive wolf falcon. There was nothing in this world that they didn't dare to eat. However, Si Kongyao stared at Lin Muyu's back and felt that this person was becoming more and more mysterious. It was understandable that he dared to eat the wolf falcon. Who knew how many secrets this guy was hiding? Not long after, the wolf falcon's meat was extremely fragrant and tempting. Lin Muyu took out the little demonic noise knife and cut a large piece of meat for Si Kongyao. Si Kongyao didn't refuse and nodded with a smile. She placed the piece of meat in her palm and held it with her Xian energy so that it didn't touch her palm directly. Then, she ate it in small bites. It was indeed delicious. The wolf falcon's meat was very fresh and tender. It was simply better than all the other birds. Within the spirit pulse art, a total of 11 powerful auras were rapidly approaching. Lin Muyu naturally knew who they were, but since she couldn't hide, there was no point in hiding. She took the opportunity to eat and sleep before fighting. The demonic noise knife spun and cut off pieces of extremely tender meat from the wolf falcon's leg. She ate nearly 1 kilogram of meat in one go. She patted her stomach. Half full, it was time to act. Roar, roar, roar. Following the roar of the giant dragon, black figures pierced through the clouds and descended from the sky. Chapter 740. In the sky, 11 enormous figures formed an invisible pressure on the ground, making it hard for people to breathe. This time, a total of 11 dragon riders had come. One of them was a dragon rider general, a person with a penetrating scar on the left side of his face. It was most likely a scar that had been left behind after being shot by a sharp arrow. He looked to be around 40 years old, and his chin was covered in short stubble. His gaze was intimidating, and he wore a symbol of 4 golden stars and a red cloud on his chest. The symbol of 4 stars signified that he had already obtained the title of Sacred Martial King on the Celestial Pole continent, while the red cloud was the symbol of the Tianji Empire. Lei Wen, one of the 21 dragon riders of the Tianji Dragon Riders, was a Saint Martial King. His muddy fire blade had swept through many experts within the empire, making his name known throughout the world. Now, he had received an order from the headquarters of the Tianji Dragon Riders to lead 10 dragon riders to kill a sword-wielding ranger. Now, he had finally found him. However, when Lei Wen's gaze fell on the bonfire under the cliff, he couldn't help but tremble. He was furious. These 2 brats actually killed the wolf falcon. On the ground, Lin Muyu stepped on the early spring grass and walked forward step by step. She raised her head to look at the dragon riders in the sky and said, "You guys have come again and again. Are you done yet? You're the one who defeated Huyin." Lei Wen's voice was filled with dignity. "That's right, it's me." "You killed the wolf falcon as well?" "That's right." "You have a good appetite." Lei Wen's gaze turned cold, and he became especially ferocious. "Do you know how to write the word death? Only death awaits those who challenge the Tianji Dragon Riders. I don't care who you are. Today, this will be your burial ground. Is that so?" Lin Muyu raised her head to look at him. She didn't fear death, and her aura didn't lose out at all. Aura was a part of the domain. At this moment, Lei Wen was secretly shocked. Just who was this young man to be able to compete with his aura when he was riding a dragon? At this moment, a beautiful girl walked out from the forest. It was Si Kongyao. She had a faint smile on her face and said, "Uncle Lei Wen, long time no see." Lei Wen was stunned. "See. Young Miss Sikong, why are you here?" Si Kongyao smiled. "I came out with 2 friends to travel around the world." "These 2 are your friends?" "Yes." "How is that possible?" Lei Wen's eyes were filled with disdain towards Lin Muyu and Lu Bai. His face was filled with a look that said, "Who is Miss Si Kongyao, and why would she hang out with these two lowly people? Miss Si Kong, these two have injured Hu Yin and Li Ku, the two dragon riders. They are openly provoking the Tianji dragon riders, which is equivalent to provoking the Tianji Empire. Even if they are friends of Miss Si Kong, this humble one, Lei Wen, cannot be biased." "Really?" Si Kongyao narrowed her eyes. "What if they are from the Tianji sect? Was Uncle Raven going to do something to them? If Uncle Raven did something to the Tianji sect, and Grandpa found out about it, would he punish you?" Lei Wen's face flashed with a trace of horror. Si Kongming, these three words were the supreme existence in the hearts of the Empire's warriors. Even the Imperial Marshal, one of the five divine martial gods, Bai Ming Huan, was respectful to Si Kongming, not to mention a mere dragon rider like him. However, if he were to admit defeat like this, he would probably become a laughing stock. Not to mention that Lei Wen was leading 10 dragon riders to carry out a mission from the headquarters. If he returned without any results, he would not be able to explain it to his superiors. The muddy fire saber in his hand began to hum, as if it was already anticipating a battle. Lei Wen said with a fake smile, "I have to give face to Miss Si Kong. Since these two people are from the Tianji sect, wait." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. "I am just an idle person, not from the Tianji sect." "Oh?" Lei Wen smiled, "Then it's even easier." Si Kongyao stomped her feet in anger and stared at Lin Muyu. You want to anger me to death? Are you a pig?" Lin Muyu naturally knew what Si Kongyao was thinking. She wanted to pull her into the Tianji sect, but this was absolutely impossible. Once she joined the Tianji sect, she would not be able to control herself. She, the Qin king of the Shattered Cauldron world, would not know how to stand in the Qin Empire in the future. Lei Wen raised his blade and shouted, "Spread out. Surround this place. Don't let anyone escape. Today, I want the corpses of these two brats to lie on the ground. How dare they challenge the dignity of the Tianji dragon riders? You two must have eaten the guts of a leopard." "Wait!" Si Kongyao cried out and stood in front of Lin Muyu. "Uncle Lei Wen, these two have yet to join the Celestial Mystical Sect. Now that I've promised them that they will become the Celestial Mystical Sect's distinguished guests, even if they're not from the sect, I won't allow anyone to bully them. Uncle Lei Wen, are you not going to give face to the Celestial Mystical Sect? Honored guests?" Lei Wen was stunned. "I remember that the Tianji sect's honored guest last time was General Zhangcheng, one of the 5 martial saint gods of the empire. Why did they invite these two, honored guests this time? Anyway, they are honored guests of the Tianji sect. Touching them is equivalent to becoming an enemy of the Tianji sect." Si Kongyao quickly made her position clear. Lei Wen smiled, "Miss Si Kongyao, although the Tianji sect is respected in the empire, we, the Tianji dragon riders, carry out His Majesty's orders. I respect the Tianji sect and Lord Si Kongming, but please respect the Tianji dragon riders as well. Don't make it difficult for me. How can these two clowns be honored guests of the Tianji sect? Don't deceive yourself, Mississippi." Si Kongyao was anxious. She stamped her feet and said, "What do I have to do for you to let them go?" VIPs. Lei Wen's arms emitted traces of fire rule divine power and entered the muddy fire saber. In an instant, the saber was burning red, illuminating his ferocious face. He smiled and said, "I can admit that they are VIPs, but they have to pass through my muddy fire saber. Otherwise, how can they be worthy of being VIPs of the Tianji sect?" Si Kongyao was silent. Lin Muyu's body was surrounded by an invisible whirlwind. She rose into the air and stood at the same height as Lei Wen. She looked at him and said, "Then, what do I have to do to pass your muddy fire blade? As long as you can survive 20 moves from my muddy fire blade, I, Lei Wen, will let you go. How about it?" Lei Wen's eyes were filled with arrogance. He didn't even put Lin Muyu in his eyes. He was going to say 10 moves, but this brat won against Huyin. Even if it was a trick, he must have some ability. So he said 20 moves. Lin Muyu was also angry. After talking so much nonsense, she had already recovered 90% of her divine power. This Lei Wen's aura was completely exposed. He didn't hide it at all. Under the detection of the spiritual pulse technique, he was at the 34th Grotto Heaven level. If he was only at the 34th Grotto Heaven level, he would have a great chance. Plus, Lei Wen was so arrogant. It was time to suppress him. Alright, 20 moves. Come. The flames of the muddy fire blade soared. The dragon Lei Wen was riding on also let out a roar. Its whole body was covered in flames. It was a fire dragon with extraordinary power. Lin Muyu secretly thought to herself. When fighting Lei Wen, she still had to be careful of the fire dragon's bite and dragon's flame. Otherwise, if she was careless, she would suffer. No matter what, Lei Wen was a dragon rider. She couldn't underestimate him. Lei Wen's blade was raised horizontally. A flame formed into a dragon and circled around the hilt. It was actually Dragon Qi. This was a dragon rider who could control Dragon Qi. Lin Muyu was secretly startled. She slowly unsheathed her stellar sword, streaks of frost and stars lingered around the blade. Since Lei Wen was using the law of fire, then she would use the law of ice, which was relatively more restrained. If you lose, I want your head to report to His Majesty. Lei Wen said indifferently. No one would doubt the truth of his words. And if you lose? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. What are you going to give me? If I lose? Lei Wen laughed out loud. What a joke. You think I will lose to you? What if? Lei Wen frowned. If I lose, I, Lei Wen, will give my life to you. Why would I want your life? If you lose, I want this fire dragon of yours. What? Lei Wen was startled. You want my Qi Yan? So this dragon's name was Qi Yan. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. What, you don't dare to bet? Let's bet. You're just courting death. With a furious roar, Luan rode his dragon and charged forward. With a slight tremble of his long blade, the air seemed to be engulfed by raging flames. In an instant, he slashed out nearly 10 flaming blade lights. The power interweaved together, as if wanting to vaporize everything in the world. As expected of a dragon rider. With just a single move, it could be seen that he was much more skilled than Huyin, Li Ku, and the other dragon riders. However, Lin Muyu was even faster. Without a dragon mount, he was able to deal with it easily. His body was like a fish in the sea as he weaved through the blade auras. In an instant, he was in front of Lei Wen. He raised his hand and slashed down. First star light. Courting death. Lei Wen swept his blade horizontally. Dang! The star sword and the muddy fire blade clashed. It was obvious that the muddy fire blade was also a saint weapon, and its soul-refining power was not much inferior to the star sword. A total of 34 heavenly caves swept over. Lin Muyu could not help but be shocked to the point that he was rooted to the ground. Below him, the flames surged. It was the fire dragon turning its head to bite and devour. Pooh! The air seemed to suddenly explode. Lin Muyu's movement speed was extremely fast, and he retreated dozens of meters in an instant. He did not plan to take a defensive stance at all. Facing a powerful dragon rider, he chose to attack. That's right, attack is the best defense. That was what everyone said. Clang, 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 sparks continuously flew in the air. In just a few seconds, Lin Muyu slashed out 7 or 8 times. Every slash was filled with supreme divine power, and his body was surrounded by the energy of the jade snow ice. The more Lei Wen fought, the colder he became. His body and arms were covered in a layer of frost. This brat was like an ice man from purgatory. The surroundings were extremely cold, and this kind of ice law divine power was the power that Lei Wen hated the most. His movements gradually became slower and slower. Lei Wen's temperament also became irritable, and he no longer had any method to fight. Chapter 741. Pang. Lin Muyu's fist, which was filled with frost, landed heavily on the blazing palm that Lei Wen had hurriedly thrown out. The surrounding time and space seemed to have frozen in that instant. Hexagonal ice crystals appeared in a spherical force field, randomly splashing and shooting in all directions. In a duel between two deities, bystanders were no longer able to enter the force field created by their battle. Lei Wen remained silent, but the flames on the muddy fire blade became more and more vigorous. In an instant, the blade's light increased explosively, and the domain also increased greatly. Under the pressure of the power, illusions were actually formed, and countless long blades in the sky slashed towards Lin Muyu, seeming to be invulnerable. Wang, golden light suddenly appeared, and a perfect round bottle-gourd wall surrounded Lin Muyu. In the violent vibrations, the bottle-gourd wall could not withstand Lei Wen's 34 layers of waves, and suddenly shattered. But in the instant that it shattered, a beam of light flew out. In Lin Muyu's hand was an astral chain, and she charged towards Lei Wen. Leaping into the air, the astral chain swept out with a shwa-shwa sound. Child's play. Lei Wen could not help but let out an explosive roar. The muddy fire blade was swung backwards, and when it slashed out, an earth-shattering wave of flames swept out, actually blowing away the power of the astral chain. What a good dragon knight! Indeed, he was much stronger than ordinary dragon knights. Just in terms of cultivation alone, he was already firmly above Lin Muyu. Unfortunately, Lei Wen still did not understand Lin Muyu. In the instant that the astral chain shattered, Lin Muyu's figure flashed above Lei Wen's head, and her battle boots, which contained boundless divine power, heavily kicked towards Lei Wen's shoulder. Scoundrel! Lei Wen hurriedly raised his left fist and punched towards Lin Muyu's calf, forcing her to retreat. But the retreating Lin Muyu's figure miraculously flipped, and like a swimming dragon, she appeared under Lei Wen's armpit. A small demonic noise blade in her left hand spun, and like a high-speed fan blade, it landed under Lei Wen's armpit. Puchi. Finally, blood was seen. Lei Wen's divine power spirit wall was unable to block the sharp aura of the little magic noise blade, and his armpit was sliced open by about 3 centimeters, which was not considered a heavy injury for Bing. Lin Muyu immediately retreated after her attack. She raised her stellar sword and slashed downwards. It was chaos of the common life. Humph. Lei Wen had already seen chaos of all lives in the previous few moves, so he naturally knew that this move wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Thus, he raised the hilt of his blade with both hands to block. Clang! A golden shockwave of divine power swept out, and something that Lei Wen had never expected happened. Lin Muyu's attack seemed to be much heavier and more ferocious than before. His right hand actually could not hold the hilt of the saber steadily, and the muddy fire saber almost flew out of his hand. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu's sword slashed diagonally at his shoulder, directly cutting into his armor. Fresh blood spurted out. Lin Muyu's body was in the air. As long as he used a bit of strength in his arms, it would be enough to cut off Lei Wen's right arm. However, he did not do so. Killing a dragon rider like Lei Wen here was completely meaningless, and it would also create a powerful enemy for himself. It was also at this moment that Lei Wen fiercely tugged on the dragon's reins. The fire dragon immediately began to flip, forcibly swinging Lin Muyu's body away. On the ground, Si Kongyao actually clapped her hands and laughed. "Uncle Lei Wen, you have already lost." That's right, Lei Wen was already injured. Just now, when Lin Muyu stopped moving, it was because he was being lenient. Even an idiot could see that. Lu Bai's eyes had already turned white. It can't be, who exactly is this brat, to actually be able to defeat the genuine Saint Martial King, shwa shwa shwa. The flames were still dense in the surroundings. Lei Wen looked at Lin Muyu with a pale expression and said, what did you do to make my arm lose its divine power? It's very simple. Lin Muyu stood in the air and said, the human body has a meridian under the armpit called the sun and moon, which connects the qi si and the arm. I just used a knife to cut off your sun and moon meridian, so that the wave divine power in your qi si can't flow into your arm, so you can't block a mere blow of mine. Lord Lei Wen, do we still want to continue fighting? Sun and moon? Lei Wen did not know this. He frowned and said, no need to fight, I admit defeat, but, this fire dragon is a companion found in the dragon nest 3,000 years ago, it is impossible to give it to you. If you want something else, as long as I, Lei Wen, have it, and I am willing to admit defeat, I will definitely give it to you. Not giving me a fire dragon? Lin Muyu narrowed his eyes. He had originally planned to get a dragon from the celestial pole continent to study so that he could better understand his enemy. However, on second thought, it would be too ostentatious to bring a giant dragon around. He still had to go to the other two empires to take a look. Fine, he might as well give up on this fire dragon. Thus, he said straightforwardly, sure, but, this fire dragon should be quite valuable, right? Then I want enough precious demon spirit stones. Demon spirit stones? Lei Wen frowned and said, demon spirit stones are one of the most precious things in the celestial pole continent, and demon spirit stones can only be found by chance, not sought. From the breeding of a fire dragon to adulthood, the cost is about 3 million gold coins. How about this, I will give you 3 million gold coins in gold notes, is that okay? No. Lin Muyu shook his head, and stubbornly said, either bring the fire dragon to me, or give me enough demon spirit stones. Otherwise, in front of so many subordinates, are you still unwilling to admit defeat? In fact, he was very clear in his heart that demon spirit stones were a cultivator's most precious treasure. As long as one had enough demon spirit stones and enough talent, one could train a genius to step into the god realm in a few short years, or even become a Saint Martial King or Saint Martial Venerable on this continent. Therefore, demon spirit stones were definitely not a common commodity. As a foreigner, even if he had money on this continent, there was no way for him to get demon spirit stones. At this time, it would be too much of a pity if he didn't ruthlessly extort Lei Wen. Lei Wen's face alternated between green and red. As a dragon rider, it was already shameful enough for him to lose to a nameless brat. If he didn't keep his word on the bet, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to mingle in the dragon rider regiment anymore. Therefore, he frowned and said, the Empire's laws have long stated that no one can privately buy or sell demon spirit stones. As a member of the Tianji Dragon Regiment, I naturally can't knowingly break the law. Is that so? Lin Muyu pondered and didn't say anything. At this time, the corner of Si Kongyao's mouth rose, and her smile was exceptionally sweet. Uncle Lei Wen, I heard that every dragon rider has a quota of demon spirit stones that they can collect from the national treasury every quarter to use for their own cultivation. Also, a dragon rider only needs to take out less than half of the black market's money to buy a lot of demon spirit stones from the national treasury. Did I remember wrongly? There shouldn't be, Miss, you. Lei Wen was so angry that his teeth itched. He originally wanted to lie to Lin Muyu, this hothead, but Si Kongyao actually sold him out. If that's the case, then there's no problem. Lin Muyu said, how about this, we go to the next city together, and wait for Lord Lei Wen to fulfill his promise and give me the 204th class demon spirit stones. It won't be too late for us to part ways then. Who said 204th class demon spirit stones? Lei Wen spat out his saliva, and the blue veins on his face protruded. Do you know the value of the 4th class demon spirit stones? I know the value of a fire dragon even more, Lin Muyu said. Si Kongyao couldn't help but stick out her tongue, and said with a smile, young hero, you're asking for a bit too much. Some provincial treasury doesn't even have a total of 204th-class demon spirit stones. In my opinion, the value of a fire dragon should be equivalent to 105th-class demon spirit stones. That should be it, at least in Tianji City. Her elbow had already turned completely outward. Let's go with 205th-class demon spirit stones. Lin Muyu looked up at Lei Wen on the dragon's back, and said, Lord Lei Wen, what do you think? Lei Wen's face turned livid. 205th-class demon spirit stones? I'm afraid I can't afford that much even with my 50 years of salary. You're making things difficult for me. Who said so? Uncle Lei Wen, it's not right for you to say you're poor. Si Kongyao squinted her beautiful eyes and smiled. If I remember correctly, 3 years ago, when you went to East Com City to subdue a demon venerable level demon spirit for Marquis Egret, you received more than 1 million gold coins from him. Moreover, the Tianji Dragon Riders sometimes complete some missions in private. I'm afraid you guys also reaped a lot of benefits, right? Lei Wen's face was full of embarrassment, and the group of dragon riders behind him were also a little mischievous. After all, even if they stepped into the divine realm, they still needed to live. Since they entered the world to cultivate, how could they not be stained by the mundane world? Which dragon rider didn't have a mansion in the imperial capital? Therefore, Si Kongyao's words were also a secret that couldn't be said, and everyone had a tacit understanding. As members of the Tianji Dragon Riders, we have long sworn to dedicate our lives and everything to the Empire. Those are all gifts from the Empire to us, Lei Wen said solemnly. Good, gifts, gifts. Lin Muyu secretly felt that it was funny. Since it's a gift, then give me some of it. 200 Tier 5 Demon Spirit Stones, deal. No, it's too much. I really can't take out that much at the moment. Lei Wen frowned. It seemed that this was indeed beyond what he could bear. Then how much can you take out? 50. 50 Tier 6 Demon Spirit Stones. Looks like I need to go to the imperial capital and announce that the Tianji Dragon Rider Lei Wen of the Tianji Dragon Riders lost to a ranger, Lin Muyu said slowly with her arms crossed. Lei Wen couldn't help but wail. Originally, he could order 10 dragon riders to attack together, and they would definitely be able to kill both Lin Muyu and Lu Bai. However, Si Kongyao was present, so he couldn't do it. After all, no one in the entire Tianji Empire was willing to offend a top expert like Si Kongming. Alright, 100 Tier 5 Demon Spirit Stones, how about it? It's a deal. We'll head north from here, and when we reach the 9 Dragon City in the south of the Tianji province, I'll go to the treasury and buy some Demon Spirit Stones for you. How about that? Thank you, Lord Lei Wen. Lin Muyu said respectfully. At this moment, Lei Wen didn't seem like an opponent, but more like a god of wealth. Chapter 742. 9 Dragon City, a wealthy county city located about 500 miles south of Tianji City. It has a population of more than 2 million people, mainly farming and fishing. The city is very sturdy. On the east, south, and west sides of the city, there are 2 statues of dragon heads, and facing the north, there are 3 statues, implying that they are bowing down to Tianji City. 10 miles south of the city, 11 giant dragons were hovering in the air. It was a spectacular sight, attracting the attention of the commoners, rangers, mercenaries, and hunters on the official road. Everyone knew that the Empire had a powerful dragon rider regiment, but there were very few people who had seen a dragon rider with their own eyes. Under the shade of a tree, Lin Muyu, Lu Bai, and Si Kongyao were each riding a war horse, slowly moving forward. They were not worried, because Lei Wen and the others in the air would definitely be waiting for them. Dragon riders regard reputation as more important than life. Presumably, Lei Wen would not be willing to let others know that he had been defeated. Young hero, Lu Bai glanced at Lin Muyu, wanting to say something but hesitating. What's wrong? If you have something to say, just say it. Lin Muyu asked. Lu Bai frowned and said, although Lei Wen is a dragon rider, do you really trust him that much? If Lei Wen cheats us, and we enter Nine Dragon City, he will close the city gate, making it impossible for us to escape. What should we do? Although demon spirit stones are very precious, but if we lose our lives, what's the use of demon spirit stones? Bai, you misunderstood. It's not us entering Nine Dragon City, it's only me entering Nine Dragon City. Oh? Why? Lu Bai was stunned. Lin Muyu slightly smiled. Do you think I don't know how sinister people can be? But, I must get my hands on these 100 demon spirit stones. So, you and eldest Miss Sikong don't go into the city. You'll go around the Nine Dragon City and head towards the direction of the Tianji City. I'll leave the Nine Dragon City after I get the demon spirit stones, and then I'll look for you. Si Kongyao frowned slightly. Although you're very strong, you're definitely not stronger than all the warriors in Nine Dragon City. Also, you probably don't know this, but all the large cities in the empire have been set up with barriers, and the laws of space are chaotic. Even Saint Martial gods can't use their power to pierce through space within the city. In other words, it's too difficult for you to walk out by yourself. Unknowingly, Si Kongyao seemed to have regarded herself as one of the members of Lin Muyu and Lu Bai's adventure team, so she was always thinking of them. Barrier? Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. How did you set up this barrier? It seems to be an iron bar buried in the ground. As for what it is, I don't know. That's a matter for the Imperial Army. Iron bar? Lin Muyu muttered to herself. That should be a magnet. It turned out that the people of the celestial pole continent already knew how to use magnets to disrupt the four-dimensional power of God state experts. She asked, Miss Sikong, have you heard of the Heavenly Book? Heavenly Book? Si Kongyao's eyes were filled with confusion. She shook her head and said, I don't know, and that's good. Protect Lini and don't enter the city. Walk around the city. I'll follow you guys. Don't worry. Lin Muyu had a rough idea of what was going on. The Heavenly Book's original name was Fushi's Heavenly Book. It was a kind of power that God Emperor Fushi had left behind for his descendants. The celestial pole continent in front of them was a plane that belonged to the Western Heaven realm, so they didn't know about the existence of the Heavenly Book. This was easy to handle. When they reached the outskirts of Nine Dragon City, Si Kongyao and Lu Bai parted ways with Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu waved at Lei Wen and the other dragon knights in the air and entered the city. What does that kid want to do? Lei Wen frowned. I don't know. It seems that he wants to enter Nine Dragon City alone. A dragon knight replied. Humph, he's really arrogant. Although this kid has the ability, it's just a little trick of breaking meridians. He actually dares to be arrogant in Nine Dragon City. He's really courting death. Lord Dragon Knight is wise. The Dragon Knight smiled slightly. When do we make our move? There's no hurry. Lei Wen's eyes turned cold and said, I've already sent a letter to the prefectural governor in the city. The 100 demon spirit stones are prepared in the prefectural treasury. Let him go and get it himself. As long as this kid enters the prefectural treasury, we'll immediately kill him and get rid of any future troubles. We can also bring his head to the marshal to receive the reward. Yes, this is a good idea. That kid will be ecstatic when he sees the demon spirit stones. As a result, he will let down his guard. That's the best time for us to make our move. A group of people rode their battle dragons across the city and rushed straight in the direction of the prefectural treasury. The dragon was fast and the horse was slow. When Lin Muyu rode his horse to the prefectural treasury, more than a dozen dragon knights were already there. There were also a few people wearing official robes. Young hero, good day. The middle-aged fat man wearing the official robe smiled. The demon spirit stones have been prepared, but, as the prefectural governor, I can't easily enter the prefectural treasury. Young hero, please follow the registrar to get it yourself. Lei Wen smiled and said, we'll go with you. Thank you. Lin Muyu nodded. He could clearly feel the murderous intent. But it didn't matter. It wasn't difficult for him to escape anyway. The prefectural treasury wasn't too big, but it was pitch black. A few servants carried torches and escorted Lin Muyu inside. Behind him, there were more than a dozen dragon knights with swords and spears in their hands. They looked like they were ready to kill at any moment. Lin Muyu pretended that he didn't see anything and strolled into the prefectural treasury. The first treasury stored some weapons, armors, and other military supplies. The second treasury stored countless grains. The third treasury was a horse farm. The fourth treasury stored gold and silver. Gold and silver coins were piled up like mountains. The demon spirit stones were also in the fourth treasury. There were guards outside the prefectural treasury. At a glance, there were at least 500 of them. There were also many archers in the attic. At the same time, ballisti and ballisti were facing the door of the prefectural treasury. It could be said that it was heavily guarded. Lin Muyu raised his head and glanced around. The middle-aged man drinking tea in the attic was at the first heaven of the divine state. He was a Saint Martial Venerable in the celestial pole continent. In addition, the two people playing chess were Saint Martial warriors. They were both Saint Martial warriors. The Tianji Empire was too extravagant for a mere prefectural treasury to have such a defensive force. In the Shattered Cauldron realm, a god-state expert could be the imperial advisor of a country. But in the celestial pole continent, he could only be a supervisor guarding the prefectural treasury. The difference was too big. Young hero, please come in. Luan said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. That smile of his was really too annoying. Lin Muyu was not afraid. She walked in. On both sides were wooden chests filled with gold, silver, and copper coins. The torn wrapping papers were emitting a golden light. It was very tempting. But the most tempting thing was the table in the center of the prefectural treasury. There was a delicate wooden chest on it. The chest was open. It was filled with thumb-sized demon spirit stones. There were a total of 100 of them. All of them were 5th-grade demon spirit stones. They glowed with different lusters according to their attributes. These are all prepared for me? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. That's right. Lei Wen extended his hand and made a gesture of courtesy. He smiled and said, young hero, please help yourself. Thank you. Lin Muyu walked forward calmly. She picked up the wooden chest and poured the 105th-grade demon spirit stones into her cosmos sack. But at this moment, a dragon knight's vicious laughter came from behind. These demon spirit stones are treasures obtained by the blood and sweat of the brave warriors of the Empire. Kid, who do you think you are? You actually want to take them for yourself? I'm afraid you have the reputation to take them, but you won't have the life to enjoy them. It was a young dragon knight about 17 or 18 years old. Probably because he became a dragon knight at such a young age, his eyes flashed with ruthlessness and violence that did not match his age. It was a smile that made Lin Muyu extremely disgusted. Sometimes, people were not people. Just like this young dragon knight in front of her. His blade must have been stained with the blood of many innocent people. Lord Lei Wen. Lin Muyu turned around and smiled. Is this your idea? Lei Wen nodded. I'm sorry. I can't let you leave here alive. If you do, you will be the shame of the Empire. The shame of the Tianji Dragon Riders. Why are you talking so much to him? Attack. The young dragon knight was the first to attack. His sword turned into a stream of light and attacked at an astonishing speed. It did not seem like a speed that a divine sky realm cultivator could reach. Moreover, the sword light contained countless changes. It was obvious that his swordsmanship was extraordinary. This person must be from a prestigious family. Otherwise, he would not have such ruthlessness and arrogance. In that instant, Lin Muyu wanted to kill. Clang! When it came to swordsmanship, Lin Muyu no longer feared anyone in the world. His current swordsmanship was a combination of the sword control technique and the demon race's swordsmanship. He could easily see through his opponent's swordsmanship. He gently moved his sword and used the hilt to grab his opponent's wrist. The young dragon knight was startled. He immediately lowered his body and kicked at Lin Muyu's abdomen. He roared, "I'll break your energy sea." So ruthless. Lin Muyu's speed was as fast as lightning. The astral sword flashed with a cold light, and with a "kacha" sound, the young dragon knight's leg was directly cut off. Blood spurted out, and before he could feel any pain, Lin Muyu's left fist landed on his chest. His ribs were all shattered, and even his heart was shattered. Bang! The young dragon knight's body seemed to have exploded. "Since you want to kill me, don't blame me for being ruthless," Lin Muyu roared. His fist that had pierced through the dragon knight's chest suddenly opened up. Star power instantly exploded, 7 glorious stars transformation. Boom! Half of the vault had been razed to the ground, and Raven and the rest of the dragon knights were lying in the mess. Basically, everyone was heavily injured, and the two who bore the brunt of the attack were directly killed by the 7 glorious stars transformation, and this was even when Lin Muyu had not used her full strength. Whoosh! A dark green dagger appeared in his hand. After a flash of light, a person disappeared from Nine Dragon City, which was said to be sealed by a barrier. Lei Wen raised his head and looked in the direction that Lin Muyu disappeared. He felt as if his entire world had collapsed. Chapter 743. In the harsh winter, the wind at night in the land of exile cut one's skin like a knife. However, the colder it was, the harder it was to find food. Many large beasts had hibernated in their caves. Therefore, the exiles could only hunt each other for meat. To the exiles, the greater significance of the harsh winter was whether they could survive until winter, but the cold was not the most fatal factor. Huff! Huff! In the barren, pale yellow grass, a ghost wolf crawled there. Ghost wolves never hibernated. They needed to maintain continuous hunting to maintain their strength. This ghost wolf was a female wolf. Her eyes were very fierce, and the mucus that flowed from her teeth had actually frozen into icicles hanging from her chin. They looked like the teeth of a saber-toothed tiger. The ghost wolves in the land of exile were different from ordinary wolves. Their fur was as tough as a 10,000-year-old spiritual dragon, and their sharp teeth could bite through a 10-centimeter thick steel plate. They were ferocious and ruthless. Every time they hunted, they would bite their opponents into pieces before stopping. This female wolf had not hunted for any food for 3 days in a row. If she did not eat, she would not be able to maintain her strength and become someone else's prey. Therefore, she had to succeed in one strike. Now, her prey had arrived. In the distance, a man in black carrying a scythe with a ghost head slowly walked over. He wore a loose windbreaker, and his face was hidden in the hood of the cloak, making it impossible to see his true appearance. Roar! The ghost wolf finally could not hold it in anymore. She pounced at the prey from the wild grass like lightning. It seemed that as long as she bit the opponent's throat, the man in black would become her prey. Beast! A cold light shot out from the hood. The black-clothed man waved his arm lightly. Crack! The sickle turned into a sharp light that swept across. In the next moment, the ghost wolf's body was cut in half. The cold wind blew past, and the black-clothed man's hood was blown up, revealing a middle-aged man's face that was filled with hostility. Although the meat of the ghost wolf was fishy, it was the best food in winter. However, the man in black did not pick up the corpse of the ghost wolf. Instead, he walked towards the distant mountains without looking back. To him, the enemy hidden in the mountains was more important. Moreover, mere wolf meat was not enough to attract the attention of an exiled king. Eric, a powerhouse who had been exiled tens of thousands of years ago, had killed 3 Lord-level opponents, Lin Dong, Wang Fei, and Terran, with a blood-red scythe. His outstanding military achievements had earned him the title of King of the Land of Exile. There were only about 10 kings in the entire Land of Exile, and Eric had naturally earned his current position through strength and not luck. But now, Eric had learned that a powerhouse had appeared in his territory. Eric was a young girl with a steel sword. No one knew her name. She only had a pair of blood-red eyes and endless power. She had also was an aggressive murderous intent. She had killed many Lord-level powerhouses, including General Iron. When Eric thought of General Iron, he could not help but sneer. A person like General Iron was not worth mentioning to Eric. In fact, if Eric wanted to kill General Iron, he could even crush him with his fingers. However, what shocked Eric the most was that the young girl had actually killed the Lord-level exiled king, Luobwa, a few days ago. One had to know that Luobwa's battle blade had killed more than 10 Lord-level powerhouses. The person who could kill Luobwa was definitely not simple. Therefore, the people of the Land of Exile called this young girl the Dark Moon Shura. Every night of the Blood Moon Shura, it was the time of the Dark Moon Shura's massacre. The time of the massacre? Eric couldn't help but laugh coldly. Tonight would be the night the Azura of the Dark Moon would be slaughtered. The legends of the banished land were worthless. Every legend would only last for a few years or even a few months. After that, they would be destroyed. According to the ranking system in the Land of Exile, from high to low, they were King, Lord, Chief, Rogue, Newbie, Noob. The Dark Moon Shura had killed the Lord-level Luobwa, so naturally, she became the new Lord. Every day in the rundown taverns, there were legends about the new Lord, and the Dark Moon Shura naturally became the topic of conversation. People said that the Dark Moon Shura had the most beautiful face and the most enchanting figure in the world, but she was also the cruelest hunter in the Land of Exile. Anyone who was targeted by the Dark Moon Shura did not live to the second day. Eric did not believe it. He decided to use the waning moon scythe in his hand to end the legend of the Dark Moon Shura. Because he was the king, he had the right to end this legend. Therefore, Eric did not even bring a single servant with him. He only came to the Dark Rock Mountain Range, which had been classified as the Dark Moon Shura's territory. She had to die. This was something that had already been decided. Eric's lips curled into a confident smile. The blood-red waning moon hung in the sky. It seemed fake, but the cold moonlight seemed to make the Land of Exile even colder. It was as if everything on the earth was about to freeze into ice. In the Dark Rock Mountain Range, there was no sign of human habitation. There were no weeds, only cold, black stones. On one of the giant rocks, a beautiful girl sat. Beside her, a bonfire swayed in the wind. She stretched out one of her slender, snow-white legs and lifted the coarse cloth on the outside of her thigh to change the medicine for her wound. She did not know which of the medicines was gold wound medicine, but she could instinctively confirm it by smell. In fact, the wound had already begun to heal. She had guessed correctly. Arg, the coarse cloth pulled on the wound. She could not help but frown. Enduring the great pain, she reapplied the medicine, tore off a piece of cloth from the edge of her skirt, and bandaged it again. This coarse cloth skirt was found in an abandoned house. It was originally a knee-length skirt, but in order to bandage the wound, it had now become a miniskirt. The area between the skirt and the girl's black boots was almost 30 centimeters of absolute territory. It was suffocating. After she rebandaged the wound, she laid down on her back to rest. She picked up the water bottle beside her and took a sip. Then, she held a piece of dry bread in her hand and gnawed on it. Perhaps it was not bread, but compressed biscuits. It was just that she had no idea what it was called. Suddenly, the girl raised her head, her beautiful eyes filled with vigilance. Someone had come, and a very strong one at that. Unfortunately, her leg had been cut by Lord Luobua's blade. This had weakened her combat power by at least 20%. However, being in the banished land, she had long ago learned the rules of this place. There was never a path of retreat, and you could never be weak. Otherwise, what awaited you would not only be death, but you would also become food on someone else's plate. This was the rule of iron and blood. There was no room for tears or sympathy. Clang! Grabbing a long sword with mysterious runes carved on it, she leaped and disappeared from the giant rock. In the blink of an eye, she had already disappeared into the boundless night, as if she had become one with the night. Sha. In the wind, a shadow came along with the wind. Like a bat, it gently attached itself to the giant rock. He raised his head and looked at the pitch-black night, the endless darkness of the dark rock mountain range. Where did you go? Eric coldly snorted. The waning moon scythe in his hand glowed with a faint bloody light. He used his spirit sense to sense a bit, and couldn't help but secretly laugh, so it's here. Run as much as you want, but you will never escape from my pursuit. Swoosh! His figure shot out like lightning. His speed was so fast that it was somewhat abnormal. Even a god might not be able to fly so fast. The surrounding scenery turned into a stream of light, and Eric no longer relied on his eyes. Instead, he relied on his spirit sense to chase after the Shura. In front of him was a wild grassland. The grass was as tall as a person, and any danger could be hidden in it. It was also here that the Shura's aura suddenly disappeared, as if it had never existed. Then there were only two possibilities. The first was that the Shura had hidden her aura, and the second was that she had already been killed. However, Eric was confident that his senses would not be wrong. Then there was only one possibility: the Shura had been killed. But this was even more impossible. How could a lord be killed in an instant? At this moment, Eric actually felt a little confused. Who cares? Eric coldly snorted. The waning moon scythe in his hand suddenly swung. Suddenly, a blood-red flame spread out like a fan. In the next moment, the entire grassland became a sea of fire, and the flames shot up into the sky. But at this moment, suddenly, a cold aura appeared in the sky again. Eric swung the scythe in the air without thinking. He only felt a huge shock coming from his arms, and with a clang, sparks flew everywhere. Eric was actually knocked back, and his body landed on the ground, forming a fierce shock wave that blew away the flames within dozens of meters. It was as if an invisible force field had been formed. In the air, the beautiful girl stood in the wind. There was not a trace of emotion on her stunning face, and the long sword in her hand shone brightly. She just looked at Eric indifferently. Finally willing to show yourself? The Shura of the Dark Moon. Eric held the waning moon scythe and looked at her as if nothing had happened. Your name? The girl said indifferently. Eric. After saying this, he touched his nose and added, King. And he emphasized it, as if he was emphasizing to his opponent. The girl revealed a smile and said, I don't know what a king is, nor do I care. Did you come here to kill me? That's right. Eric smiled and said, I can't tolerate a lord who doesn't submit to me in my territory. Then, let's fight. The girl raised the long sword in her hand high and looked down at Eric without the slightest fear. It was as if a king was just a symbol in her eyes, and nothing else represented anything else. Chapter 744. Clang. Flames blossomed in the air like lightning. This time, she was at a disadvantage. The tremendous force contained in Eric's waning moon scythe sent her flying back, but she remained in the air. The blood in her body surged, and she felt a sweetness in her throat as she spat out a mouthful of blood. She raised her hand to wipe away the blood, and the remaining blood at the corner of her mouth looked so poignant. "You are a very good opponent." Eric smiled faintly. "If you are willing to surrender, I can consider not killing you and let you be my woman." The girl laughed. Her laughter was so frivolous and unrestrained. She looked at Eric with her beautiful eyes. "No. Why not?" Eric asked, puzzled. The girl said, "I mean, you are not worthy." "You?" Eric said coldly. "As the king of the banished land, as one of the rulers of this land, if I am not worthy, then who is?" The girl seemed to be in a daze. No one knew what she was thinking. After a few seconds, she looked at Eric and said, "I can't remember his name, but I know he must be waiting for me. I love him." "You are courting death." Eric gritted his teeth. He felt jealousy burning in his heart. He quickly increased the divine power in his body to 100%. Suddenly, his cloak fluttered, and his long hair danced in the wind. He looked like a god of death. The light from the crescent moon scythe in his hand refracted dozens of meters away. The flames were threatening. He sneered. "Since you think I am not worthy, then I will send you to your death. I will send you to meet the person you love." "Ha ha ha." The girl smiled, and the airflow around her surged. As the blood-red light soared, a golden light burst out, and a dazzling golden ice crystal appeared in her palm. It was the celestial dragon crystal. She didn't even know where this power came from, but she knew that this power belonged to her, as if she was born with it. "Interesting." Eric roared. The crescent moon scythe slashed forward with divine power. The girl raised her palm, and the celestial dragon crystal flew out. Bang! Rays of light soared into the sky, illuminating the entire Dark Rock mountain range. Anyone would be able to tell that two exiled beings with extraordinary strength were fighting it out. They might be lords or kings, but one thing was certain: no one should join in the fun, or they would definitely die on the spot. Kill. The more Eric attacked, the more ferocious he became. Almost every strike contained layers of divine power, especially when he discovered the scars on the girl's legs. Every time he waved his scythe at the most vulnerable part of the opponent. As time went by, the girl was at a complete disadvantage. Even the dragon crystal could not help her turn defeat into victory. "You lost." After Eric fiercely knocked away his opponent's longsword, he quickly flipped his scythe and thrust out with lightning speed. Pooh! The sharp awl pierced through the young girl's shoulder, sending her body flying backwards. With a dang sound, the nearly 30 centimeters long handle nailed the young girl to the rock. Ah ah ah, the young girl screamed and swept her sword across, leaving a wound on Eric's abdomen. "Do you still want to struggle?" Eric endured the pain. No matter how much it hurt, he could not show it. A king was a natural warrior. He would never know pain, and he would never know pity. If this girl was not willing to be his woman, then she could only be a dead person. Eric's face became extremely distorted as he gripped the handle of the scythe tightly. He pushed the handle inch by inch into the rock and grinned hideously. "How does this feel? Do you think you can do whatever you want in the banished land with this ability? You're still far from it. I'll give you one last chance. Give up that so-called person you love and be my woman, and I won't kill you." The young girl smiled, and a bright dragon crystal quickly condensed in her palm. "Never." "Wow." The dragon crystal surged, and Eric took a few steps back from the impact. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Don't blame me for this." He raised his palm, and a flame sprang up, forming a fire knife, and chopped down from above. The young girl could not move, but she was not afraid. Instead, she raised her head and looked at the fire with her starry eyes. She wanted to see how this person would kill her. At this moment, a rustling sound came from the rock behind her. With a "pa" sound, the hard rock was penetrated less than a meter away from the girl's face. From the rock, a sharp object protruded. It looked like a dragon's tail. In the next moment, the boulders started to crumble. When the boulders cracked, a gigantic head covered in scales peeked out. The moment it saw the girl nailed to the boulder, its eyes blazed with fury. With a howl, it broke out of the boulder, curled up its body, and charged towards Eric's flaming blade. Bang! The flaming knife landed on the back of the mysterious dragon's armor, causing sparks to fly everywhere. However, it seemed that Eric's unarmed attack didn't cause much damage to the dragon armor. The dragon rose up and swept its claws across Eric's chest. Blood was seen. Crack! Its sharp teeth bit the waning moon scythe, and it twisted its body, forcibly pulling the scythe out of the young girl's shoulder. Blood splattered everywhere, and after throwing the scythe away, it pounced toward Eric. Beast! Eric had roamed the land of exile for many years, but he had never seen a dragon before, let alone a dragon that would bite without hesitation like a mad dog, waving its fists and punching randomly. At first, the dragon was still able to resist, but soon, it could only take a beating. Eric became more and more courageous as he fought. His fists danced like a ferocious tiger, and the dragon was forced to retreat step by step. It was even forced to retreat to the rock. His fists landed, and the dragon's skin was torn open, as if he wanted to send it back into the mountain. Just as Eric was punching randomly, a cold wind suddenly came from behind. It was her, the dark moon Azura had attacked again. Eric raised his iron fist and shouted, "Fire shield!" All God State experts who were proficient in the law of fire knew this move. Condensing flames and using energy to defend against the opponent's energy attacks, there was nothing more effective than this. Clang! As expected, the steel sword that contained the power of the dragon crystal was directly blocked by the fire shield, but in the cold wind, another force came from the right. Eric did not know that the Dark Moon Azura's attack was divided into two parts. It was not a fierce slash, but a crisscrossing attack with both hands. He blocked the steel sword on the right, but he could not block the weapon on the left, which was a fiery red scythe. Wasn't it his waning moon scythe? The waning moon scythe was beautiful, curved like a crescent moon, and unusually sharp. This was Eric's last sigh. Kacha! A human head flew into the air. Even a sovereign king had been killed. Bang! Eric's body fell into the valley, and the young girl stood calmly in the wind with the steel sword and scythe in her hands. The battle was over, and her injuries seemed to have worsened. Moreover, what was wrong with this dragon? Why did it suddenly appear to help her, and why was it beaten so badly? How pitiful! Are you all right? She looked at the giant dragon covered in crimson scales. It was a rare species. Howl! The giant dragon looked at her and actually wagged its tail like a big dog. It seemed that it was fine. The girl ignored it and flew into the depths of the valley. She searched Eric's waist and found a spatial bag. There were many good things inside, but they were basically all weapons and all kinds of food. The food was enough to last them for half a year, and the weapons were useless. In any case, they weren't easy to use. In addition, the girl's gaze fell on Eric's cloak. The cloak was made of very fine materials and felt very smooth to the touch. The young girl immediately fell in love with it and quickly took off the cloak. Then, her gaze fell on Eric's coffee-colored shirt. The color was very pleasing to the eye, and the material was also very smooth. The young girl looked at her short skirt. Not only was it ugly, but it was also very dirty. Thus, she took off Eric's shirt and made a decision in her heart. She would change this shirt into a dress as a reward for herself. The night wind whistled, and it was as if nothing had happened. In a small valley in the dark rock mountains. Another bonfire rose, and the young girl sat next to it doing needlework. She tore half of Eric's shirt into strips to wrap the wound, and used the other half to make a skirt, but there was not enough fabric, so she could only make a short skirt. The dragon also followed them and sat beside the fire. It was not afraid of fire, so it shook its head and tore open the wall of the alternate dimension. Then it came out with a large piece of meat in its mouth. It seemed to be a deer leg. The young girl was stunned. This is for me. The dragon pushed the deer leg forward. In the land of exile, deer meat was a rare treasure. The young girl was overjoyed and continued to change her skirt. Not long after, the short skirt was finished. The young girl immediately took off her coarse skirt and put on the new coffee-colored skirt. There was no chance for the dragon to watch. Pfft! Blood spurted out of the dragon's nose. What's wrong with you? The young girl frowned. The dragon shook its head and did not speak. Instead, it opened its mouth and bit the coarse skirt that the young girl had changed out of and threw it into the alternate dimension. It turned out that this was a dragon with a hobby of collecting. The young girl frowned. Didn't dragons collect glowing gems? This dragon was actually an anomaly, and it liked to collect skirts? Anomaly, simply too much of an anomaly. All anomalies should be killed, the young girl thought. This was what the young girl thought. However, this dragon had saved her life. Forget it, she would spare its life. She looked at her new skirt again, and the more she looked, the more she liked it. She was full of joy. Chapter 745. 20 li to the east of Nine Dragon City, a small town welcomed a new night peacefully. There was a simple market in the town, where merchants sold candles, lanterns, clothes, and prey. Such small towns could be seen everywhere in the celestial pole. After a day of farming, fishing, and hunting, people would usually come here to buy daily necessities. I wonder how young Hero is. Lu Bai led his horse, his face full of indignation, and said, he only knows how to be a hero. What if he gets killed when he enters Nine Dragon City alone? And he's so greedy, risking his life for a demon spirit stone. He really doesn't know death. I'm so angry. I thought I found a good backer, but it turns out he's just a boor. Si Kongyao frowned, she was a little annoyed, and said, shut up. If you don't shut up, I'll sew your mouth up. Lu Bai was speechless and didn't dare to speak anymore. Si Kong family's young miss was the kind of person who would do what she said. Let's find an inn first, Si Kongyao said. Lu Bai was silent. Let's eat whatever we want tonight. I think he'll be back soon. Lu Bai was still silent. Why aren't you saying anything? Si Kongyao said coldly. Doesn't that mean you'll sew my mouth up if I talk nonsense again? Lu Bai was trembling with fear. In the future, I'll break your legs if you don't answer when I ask you questions. Si Kongyao said angrily. Yes, young miss, Lu Bai broke out in a cold sweat. These rich and powerful people were too hard to serve. The two of them passed through the market. As they moved forward, it became more deserted. When there was no one around, a figure floated down from the sky. It was Lin Muyu. Young hero. Lu Bai was overjoyed. I thought you were dead. Although his words were very inauspicious, Lin Muyu actually felt a little touched. At least Lu Bai was sincerely concerned about her life and death. In this cold world, there were only a few people who truly cared about you. How was it? Did you succeed? Si Kongyao asked. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded her head. 100 grade 5 demon spirit stones are already in our hands. Where are you guys planning to go? Let's find an inn in town and stay for the night. We'll set off tomorrow. We can't live in the town anymore. Lin Muyu frowned. Luan will definitely send more dragon knights to search for us. It's too conspicuous to stay in the town. Let's camp out in the wild. That's fine too. 5 miles east of the town was a dense forest. The three of them led their warhorses through the dense forest path. From afar, they heard the cries of circling wolf falcons above them. There were 2 cries. This time, the Tianji dragon riders had released 2 wolf falcons. They're here to deliver food. Lin Muyu smiled and picked up 2 stones from the side of the road. Not long after, she came back with the corpses of the 2 wolf falcons and said, "Let's go, let's find a hidden place to eat some meat." Si Kongyao couldn't help but laugh. She sighed in her heart. This kid is probably wanted by the Tianji dragon riders, but he still has the heart to eat meat. This natural optimistic attitude is very valuable. Late at night, they finally found a safe and sheltered place to set up camp. A bonfire was raised. This time, Liu Bai changed his cooking method. Half of it was roasted, the other half was simmered. He also bought a lot of seasonings from the market, such as onions and garlic. This pot of meat must be much more delicious than the one on the Mugwort Mountain. Lin Muyu watched Liu Bai busy with great interest. Si Kongyao continued to maintain her cold attitude. She sat on a black beech tree far away and watched Lin Muyu and Liu Bai chatting and laughing. Her mission was still not completed. This kid didn't even have the slightest intention of joining the Tianji sect. Perhaps, the Tianji dragon rider's overbearing attitude would only make him more disgusted with the Tianji sect? Thinking of this, Si Kongyao pouted. She clenched her fist and waved it at Lin Muyu a few times in the air while panting. Not long after, a fragrant aroma assailed his nostrils. The broth and roasted meat were almost ready. Lin Muyu couldn't help but have a great appetite. She happily waited for the food, but at this moment, there was a sudden bang. A purple light penetrated the plane's wall, followed by a familiar howl. Acatosaurus was here. When Acatosaurus appeared, Lin Muyu smiled. "Little apple, come and eat. But don't eat too much. There's not enough." The red crystal dragon trotted over and rubbed its head against Lin Muyu's arm. Then, it opened its mouth and spoke to its master, "Awo, awo, 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 awo." Lin Muyu did not know when she had lost her telepathic connection with the little dragon. Although she could summon the little dragon and feel its emotions, she had no way of knowing what it was thinking. Therefore, Lin Muyu could only understand the little dragon's excitement and agitation, but she did not know what it was thinking in its heart. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu touched the dragon's head and smiled. Acatosaurus howled and suddenly opened its mouth. There was a piece of rag in it. Lin Muyu took it and looked at it carefully. She found that it was a woman's skirt. She couldn't help but stare and laugh. Where did this come from? Little apple, I was wrong about you. I didn't expect you to be such a dragon. Acatosaurus howled as if it was wronged. It seemed to want to explain something, but it couldn't understand at all. Liu Bai smiled. "Young hero, is this your pet?" "Sort of. This pet is interesting. It's probably hunting for a wife for you outside." "What are you talking about?" Lin Muyu was very protective. He held the short skirt in his hand and was about to throw it into the fire. However, just as he was about to throw it, he suddenly stopped. Although the short skirt was tattered, it seemed like there was a familiar aura on it. Although Lin Muyu could not tell who it belonged to, he was sure that it was someone he knew. Since the little dragon gave this skirt to him, there must be a reason, right? Forget it. I'll put it aside first. He carefully put the skirt into his Qiankuan bag. Tisk, Si Kongyao, who was on a tree branch in the distance, saw this and couldn't help but pout. "I thought you were a gentleman, but you're also a collector. Since you're interested in women, then I can work on this. When I find the most beautiful woman in Tianji province, I don't believe that you won't join the Tianji sect. As she spoke, Si Kongyao took out a pen and paper and wrote a line of words. Then, she whistled, and a white bird fell from the sky. Nobles had specially raised messenger birds, let alone people like Si Kongyao. Naturally, Lin Muyu didn't know what was about to happen. She was sharing the delicious food with Little Apple. Soon, Lin Muyu was 100% full. Acatosaurus was at most 30%, but it didn't care that much. After eating, Acatosaurus bit the star's sword that was placed at the side and wanted to leave. Hey! Wait, before Lin Muyu could finish, it was too late. Acatosaurus had already sent the star's sword into a different space. What's wrong with you? Lin Muyu scolded, hurry up and return the star's sword to me. That's my weapon. Do you believe that I won't beat you up if you don't return the star's sword to me? Whoa, Acatosaurus shook its head and acted like a spoiled child. It had no intention of returning the star's sword. Lin Muyu was furious, Motherf ***, I'll beat the ***t out of you today. Just as he was about to teach Acatosaurus a lesson, Si Kongyao descended from the sky and said, hey, don't torture a small animal. Since you want a weapon that you can use, why don't I give you one? How about using it first? How can I accept that? I don't deserve it. Besides, I won't join the Tianji sect. Look at what you're saying. What kind of person do you think I, Si Kongyao, am? After all, we've been through life and death together. What's wrong with giving you a weapon? I'm not asking you to join the Tianji sect, Si Kongyao said angrily with her perfect 36C. This is fine. Give it to me. A certain someone was not a stubborn person. Si Kongyao opened her space bag and took out a long sword from it. The moment the long sword was unsheathed, an overwhelming chill surged out from the surroundings. The phantom of a giant beast was entrenched on the blade of the sword. It was the soul of a saint beast. This was actually a saint weapon. It was great to be rich. Here, this sword is called the Ice Essence Sword. It was forged by a famous ancient craftsman. Later generations of divine craftsmen reforged it a few times. Its spiritual power does not dissipate, and it's very sharp. Since you lack a weapon, this sword. Si Kongyao was reluctant to part with it. She clenched her teeth and said, I'll give it to you. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. You're really giving it to me? Yes. Then let go of it. Oh. Si Kongyao's pretty face was flushed. The moment Lin Muyu held the sword, she felt a chilling force surging into her arm. It was indeed a divine weapon forged by a famous ancient craftsman. She knew that she could not forge it herself. Moreover, after so many years, the spiritual power of the holy beast's soul was still very vigorous. It was too rare. No matter what, this Ice Essence sword was a rare treasure. It was really rare that Si Kongyao would give it to her. Apart from joining the Tianji sect, I can agree to one of your requests, said Lin Muyu. What do you want? Si Kongyao giggled. How about this? There will be another beauty coming in 2 days. No matter where you and Lu Bai are going to travel, bring us along. Is that all right? Another beauty? Lin Muyu was stunned. Lu Bai said, she's really a beauty. How is she compared to you? She's not inferior to me. Si Kongyao said embarrassedly. Is that a request? Lu Bai's eyes lit up. This is a kind of benefit. Missy, you're too polite, Si Kongyao. In the end, Si Kongyao was still too young. She didn't know what a beautiful woman meant to a man. In fact, there were many times when a beautiful woman, to a man, if she liked him, then she would be the woman he loved. If she didn't like him at all, then, she was worthless. Chapter 746. Late at night, the jungle was quiet, only the sound of dew on the branches falling on the tent could be heard. Lin Muyu was lying alone in the tent. Her divine power was concentrated in her sea of consciousness. Her spiritual sense turned into invisible telekinesis that penetrated thousands of miles and found Tang Xiaoxi's aura above the shattered cauldron realm. She tried to communicate with her. Tang Xiaoxi woke up from her dream. She closed her eyes and smiled happily. Mu. Lin Muyu also smiled. Xiao Shi, I haven't contacted you for a long time. Why are you not in Heaven-Reaching Gorge but near Heaven-Reaching City? How's the Longdan army camp? Everything is going well. Tang Xiaoxi said happily, I just got the military report from Duke Wei tonight. Longdan army camp shelled the barren battlefield in the north of Heaven-Reaching Gorge and killed nearly 30,000 armored demons. Now Qianfeng has fled. The whole Heaven-Reaching Gorge has fallen into our hands. Wei Chou is still asking me about the next step. Lin Muyu sighed. To the north of the Heaven's Gorge is the Eight Wastelands, a place that the demon race has managed for tens of thousands of years. At this time of year, the snow on the Eight Wastelands has already melted. It's said that there are still 100,000 well-trained demon race cavalry in the Eight Wastelands, so there's no need to rush. Order Wei Chou to build a fortress and seal the entrance to the Heaven's Gorge. Order Wei Ho, Min Yulin, and Feng Shi to lead the army to guard this fortress together, so that the demon race can never enter the Heaven's Gorge again. I got it. What about you? How are you doing? I'm being chased. Tang Xiaoxi looked worried. I'll go to the celestial pole continent tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll worry about you every day. I don't know how you're doing there and whether you're in danger. No need. You'll still be in danger. Xiao Shi, listen to me. You can stay in the Empire. Although it's dangerous here, I can still protect myself. By the way, how is the expansion of the Imperial Navy going? It is said that General Feng has returned to Lanyan City to preside over the overall situation. He is secretly building a giant fortress ship wrapped in iron sheets. I don't know the details. Oh, I see. Lin Muyu pondered, thinking that the iron-smelting technology of the Qin Empire seemed to have reached the stage of developing steam engines. If they really entered the era of steam, they might be able to contend against the celestial pole continent. Unfortunately, although he knew what the steam engine was, he was unable to draw the schematic diagram of its operation. It had been a long time since Lulu had appeared in his brain domain. Ever since he obtained the Supreme Godhead, Lulu's connection with him had been cut off, and he couldn't summon her. Could it be that the Supreme Godhead had destroyed the chip that Lulu was living in? In fact, Lin Muyu could no longer see the chip when she looked inside herself. Perhaps, when she was reborn, the chip had already disappeared. Mu. At this time, Tang Xiaoxi's voice was a little greasy. I miss you. I miss you, too. Lin Muyu answered very decisively. When Tang Xiaoxi was by his side, she always brought him warmth and a sense of home. But now, for the future of the Qin Empire, he could only drift outside. I still have something to do here. Let's contact each other later. Lin Muyu suddenly thought of another way. Okay. Tang Xiaoxi nodded with a smile. Come back early. Okay, I will. Summoning back his telekinesis, Lin Muyu took a deep breath. Nearly 20% of his divine power had been consumed. Sure enough, using telekinesis to communicate with him really consumed a lot of divine power. One could imagine how much divine power the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor had consumed when he sent down the oracle to communicate with him from the heaven. The road of cultivation was endless, and no one knew where the end was. Taking out a 5th-grade demon spirit stone from the Qianquan bag, Lin Muyu gently exerted strength in his palm. Suddenly, the demon spirit stone spun rapidly in his palm, disintegrating inch by inch. Soon, it had turned into energy particles. He absorbed them one by one, and in less than 2 hours, he had completely refined them. The divine power in his ocean of qi began to fill up, and the divine power consumed by using telekinesis to communicate with him had all been recovered. His cultivation also seemed to have improved by 1 level, but it was very little. It seemed that refining the demon spirit stone too frequently could not improve his cultivation rapidly. However, now that his divine power was replenished, Lin Muyu could try again. He wanted to use his divine power to penetrate through the multiple planes walls and find his hometown, Earth. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath. His sovereign lattice actually trembled slightly, as if it was excited about this bold attempt. Swoosh! A beam of light invisible to the naked eye pierced through the tent and shot straight into the sky, heading towards the other star regions. Lin Muyu seemed to have transformed into a bolt of lightning. His surroundings were filled with 4-dimensional areas. He frowned. The direction of Earth was so far away, but he knew it was there. That was the home that he had been longing for. PFFF, 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 the body formed by telekinesis kept penetrating through the plane's walls, creating loud bangs. It was unknown how many layers of planes he had penetrated. Finally, the view in front of him became clear. Lin Muyu felt his body continuously falling, and below him was a dense fog. It's not fog. It's the atmosphere. However, Lin Muyu had no idea who he was looking for, and he had no idea where he would land on Earth. What if he landed in France? After all, he didn't understand French. Forget it, I'll just try my luck. I'll just find the person with the strongest aura on this planet. He frowned, and under the guidance of the Force, his body directly fell to a certain place on Earth. He penetrated through the atmosphere and pushed away the clouds. Below him was a dazzling city, and it was a very prosperous city. Lin Muyu couldn't tell where this city was until he was about 500 meters away from the ground. From afar, he saw the words on the building, Hangzhou Sofitel Westlake Hotel. This is Hangzhou? Lin Muyu almost burst into tears. This is China, my hometown. Following the aura, he landed in a villa not far away. Lin Muyu took a closer look. That's right. In the garden of a villa, there were many dim lights. Under the grape trellis, a young man was reading a book with a frown on his face. There was also red wine and a few gaming magazines on the table beside him. Could it be this person? With a whoosh, Lin Muyu landed and condensed his body with his telekinesis so that the other party could see a mighty divine power descending from the sky. A golden pillar of light rose into the sky, surrounded by holy light and lines of golden ancient characters. This entrance was extremely cool. Huh? The young man sitting under the rattan trellis frowned. Very quickly, he raised his hand and pulled out the sharp sword on the sword rack beside him. He shouted in a low voice, "Who's there?" His movement technique was quite impressive. With a single stride, he was already close to 10 meters away. The power in his arms was injected into the long sword, causing it to burn bright red. Moreover, a formless domain aura spread out. How astonishing! Lin Muyu frowned. She didn't expect people on Earth to have such cultivation. This guy was at least at the 2nd level of the Saint Realm. The flame on the blade was clearly a variant of the King's fighting flame. Unfortunately, there was no independent system of cultivation on Earth. Back then, God Emperor Fuxi seemed to only impart culture and not martial arts. Otherwise, there would probably be more disputes. In the golden light, Lin Muyu stepped out. His face was full of a friendly smile. "Hello, what's your name? I want to ask you for a favor." "Is that possible?" The long sword in the other party's hand was still trembling. Streams of power were ready to be released. He stared at Lin Muyu and said, "My name is Li Xiaoyao." "Who are you?" Where are you from? Lin Muyu smiled. Li Xiaoyao? Isn't this the name of brother Xiaoyao in the legend of Sword and Fairy? Ha, interesting. Oh, I want to ask for your help. Who are you? Why should I help you? Li Xiaoyao seemed to realize that if he used a sword, he definitely wouldn't be a match for the stranger in front of him. He raised his hand and pulled out a gun from his thigh. The black muzzle was pointed at the other party. You are a police officer? You actually have a gun. Lin Muyu frowned. If you are a police officer, it will be even easier. I am not some alien. I am also a Chinese. Nonsense. Li Xiaoyao raised his eyebrows. Chinese basically don't know how to fly. Furthermore, the special characteristics of your power don't belong here at all. Who are you? What are you trying to do? Speak, or I will shoot. This is a nano bullet. It has strong penetrative power. You better think it over. As the captain of the Hangzhou Special Operations Team, I order you to put down your weapon. Lin Muyu was about to cry. She raised her hand and sheathed the Ice Origin sword. She spread her hands and said, You see, I am also a Chinese. My home is in Shanghai. My father is called Lin Shun. My brother is called Lin Yen. I am called, wait. Li Xiaoyao was stunned. He interrupted Lin Muyu's words. He lightly rolled the gun and put it back into the gun holster beside his thigh. He said, Your father is called Lin Shun. So you are the Lin Ji who has been missing for several years. The god of war Lin Muyu in the conquest game? Yes, that is me. Brother, do you know me? Lin Muyu was wild with joy. Yes. Li Xiaoyao nodded lightly. After you left, I dominated the virtual world. As he said that, Li Xiaoyao frowned and said, 2 years ago, the artificials caused panic in Shanghai, Hangzhou, Beijing, and other cities. Since you have such great ability, why didn't you come out? Lin Muyu complained bitterly, It's not that I don't want to help. It's just that I am not in this dimension. Not in this dimension? What do you mean? Li Xiaoyao asked. How do I explain it? Actually, I went to another world. You died? Li Xiaoyao was shocked. Lin Muyu was about to faint. Not really. Brother, don't talk about these useless things. Help me get some information about the theory and structure of the steam engine. I urgently need it. Is that so? Li Xiaoyao nodded and smiled. Okay, then wait here. I will go get the iPad from the lobby. You can go online and look it up. Okay, hurry up. Yes. Li Xiaoyao flew down the stairs and entered the lobby. When he stepped on the stairs, a girl's scream came from not far away. Ah, what happened, Wan Er? He turned pale with fright. Chapter 747. In the kitchen, a beautiful girl was sitting on the floor. A few potatoes had rolled all over the plastic plate beside her. Li Xiaoyao stood at the door, stunned. Wan Er, what's wrong? Wan Er raised her head. Dong Cheng is too diligent. He made the floor so slippery. I wanted to make a plate of green pepper and potato strips for you, but I slipped and fell. How could you be so careless? Li Xiaoyao helped his girlfriend up and massaged her knees. You could have just ordered takeout. Why did you have to do it yourself? The meaning is different. Okay, you're right. Oh right, where are Dongcheng and Shuero? They went to buy groceries. They said they wanted to cook a good meal. Little Wolf, Old K, and the others are coming later. Oh right, Meng Ya will be coming too. Oh, they're here to eat again? Li Xiaoyao laughed. He hugged his girlfriend's waist and pinned her against the wall. One heir's face turned red. Hurry up. Dong Cheng and Mat Cha will be back at any time. That. Li Xiaoyao muttered. That what? I feel like there's something I forgot to do. You have the nerve to be the captain with that kind of memory. Upstairs, Lin Muyu could naturally see everything with her observation skills. She frowned and muttered to herself, that girl looks familiar. Could she be the legendary Tsang Tong? That can't be right. She was already an adult when I left. But I've been in the Shattered Cauldron realm for more than 10 years. Why is she still so young? Could there be something wrong with the time? That could only be explained by the staggered opening of the fifth dimension. 10 years in the Shattered Cauldron realm was only a few years on Earth. Lin Muyu frowned. She suddenly felt her spiritual power rapidly depleting. In the blink of an eye, she could no longer maintain her telekinesis power in this dimension. It was as if a huge black hole had appeared behind her and was sucking her back. F***ck, what should I do? He desperately circulated his divine power to defend himself, but how could he defend against this dimensional energy? Just as the telekinesis was sent back to the Shattered Cauldron realm's plane, Lin Muyu wailed and said unwillingly, Li Xiaoyao, I'm not done with you. Sha sha sha, amidst the sound of footsteps, Lin Muyu walked to the balcony with the latest tablet in his hands. He looked around in a daze. Lin Ji had disappeared. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. He couldn't help but scratch his head. What the F***ck? Am I dreaming? Should I tell old Master Lin Shun about this? Forget it, there's no need to tell him. It'll only add to his troubles. As long as Lin Ji has a conscience, he'll come back to fulfill his filial duties. The forest in the eastern part of Nine Dragon City was filled with spring flowers. When the morning light shone on the forest, the rabbits came out to look for food. The air was filled with the sound of birds flapping their wings. It was as if the forest had suddenly come alive from the silence of the night. Lu Bai had woken up early and was making breakfast. Naturally, the main ingredient was wolf falcon meat. As a young miss, Si Kongyao should have been watching from the side and waiting to eat. However, it seemed that after she decided to join this adventurer team, she became a lot more diligent. She actually tied Lu Bai up to gather some firewood. At this moment, a voice came from the tent beside them. Li Xiaoyao, I'm not done with you. Si Kongyao and Lu Bai were stunned at the same time. Who is Li Xiaoyao? Si Kongyao asked. I don't know, but it must be a man. Young hero's taste is getting weirder and weirder. That's right, I can even dream of a man in my dreams. No wonder he didn't even look me in the eye even though I'm a natural-born beauty. Si Kongyao praised herself in high spirits. Lu Bai turned around and looked at the young lady's towering chest. He smacked his lips and said, You're indeed a natural beauty. Don't look. Si Kongyao raised her eyebrows and said with a murderous look, I'll dig your eyes out if you keep looking. You're a natural beauty and you can't even look at me. Is there any justice in this world? Lu Bai complained in a low voice. Si Kongyao smiled faintly. You can't even beat me. How dare you look at my chest? Lu Bai was speechless. So you're saying that I can look all I want? Lin Muyu opened the tent's door and said with a smile. Si Kongyao also smiled. You should just look at Li Xiaoyao's chest. Si Kongyao, I'm going to kill you. In the early morning, the forest was filled with laughter and cheers. The vigilance between them seemed to have lessened as they got along. Just as Lin Muyu and the others were eating breakfast, thunder suddenly rumbled in the sky. A ray of light shone into the forest and condensed into Xiao's figure. This was her teleportation. Fairy Xiao. Lin Muyu hurriedly stood up and bowed respectfully. You. Xiao's gaze was filled with blame as she said, You're too rash. You actually dared to traverse over 3,000 planes to search for the direction of Earth with such a tender godhead. Are you tired of living? If it were someone else, their sea of vital energy would have exploded in the plain power valley and lost all their cultivation. Lin Muyu naturally knew that she was too rash last night. At this moment, there was not much divine power left in her body, not even 20%. She was about to become a weak chicken. Thus, she humbly accepted the lesson and said, I won't dare to do it again. At the side, Si Kongyao's mouth was wide open. Naturally, she knew that this woman in front of her was very powerful. She knelt on the ground and said, Si Kongyao, greets the God Emperor Goddess, Miss Sikong, please rise. Although I haven't seen you before, I've heard of you. You're indeed a natural beauty. Xiao was very good with words. Si Kongyao was secretly happy. Thank you for your praise, goddess. Alright, I have to continue cultivating. I'll take my leave first. Xiao frowned and looked at Lin Muyu. Be careful in the future. If you encounter something you don't understand, just call me or the Demon Emperor's name. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. Go back quickly. Maintaining telekinesis consumes too much divine power. At least you know what's good for you. I'm leaving. With a swoosh, a rainbow light flew past. Xiao's figure disappeared. In fact, she had never been here. What came was just a wisp of consciousness. Lu Bai was dumbfounded the whole time. At this moment, he finally recovered and said, Young hero, could this be the legendary goddess of the god realm? Yes. Lin Muyu smiled faintly and patted Lu Bai's shoulder. Moreover, it's the goddess who rules over hundreds of planes. But don't even think about it. You're so weak. You'll never be able to pursue such a goddess. Lu Bai's face was full of tears. I want to follow you and cultivate well, teacher. The next day, after entering Tianji province, the three of them hurried on their journey. Finally, they arrived at a small town on the official road before the sky turned dark. From afar, Si Kongyao was in high spirits. She said, There's an inn in front called Flight of Phoenixes Inn. When I was very young, my grandfather brought me to stay here. It was very fun. Every night, there would be acrobats performing here. Today, we'll have a good look. Also, I want to introduce you to a new friend. A new friend? Lin Muyu squinted. Is it a girl? How did you know? Didn't you say it before? I said it before. Si Kongyao was confused. Further ahead was the small town. Strictly speaking, this was a very commercialized town. The entire town was made up of inns, pubs, blacksmiths, and so on. There was not a single resident. The inns were used to provide accommodation for the traveling merchants, the pubs were for the travelers to pass the time, and the blacksmiths were for the mercenaries and cultivators to forge and repair weapons. There were about 20 inns in the whole town, which showed how prosperous the Tianji Empire was. Among the 20 inns, there was one that stood out from the rest. The Flight of Phoenixes Inn covered an area that was 3 to 5 times that of other inns. It used colorful glazed tiles and the floor was paved with expensive pine rocks. There were even dozens of guards standing outside the door. Each of them was wearing the red cloud badge of the Tianji Empire. It could be imagined how powerful the inn's background was if it could mobilize the army to maintain law and order in a small inn. As if seeing the confusion on Lin Muyu's face, Si Kongyao chuckled and said, Flight of Phoenixes Inn only serves nobles of the 4th class and above and businessmen who are as rich as a country. Ordinary people can't enter. Oh, I'm an ordinary person. I won't go. Lin Muyu was a little lonely. Don't. Si Kongyao took his arm and said with a smile, You're my guest. If this Flight of Phoenixes Inn doesn't receive you, I'll make them suffer the consequences. Oh. Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "Is it free to stay here?" "Yes, it's free." Si Kongyao had a look of disdain on her face. She thought to herself, how can a person with at least the cultivation of a Saint Martial Venerable be so useless? It should be known that the Tianji Empire holds martial arts very highly, especially for cultivators at the level of 3 saints. The treatment of a Saint Martial God was the same as that of a prince, and the treatment of a Saint Martial King was at least the same as that of a duke. As for a God-level Saint Martial Venerable, he was at least a second-class noble. After turning down the offers from many inns along the way, the 3 of them went straight to the Flight of Phoenixes Inn. A fat innkeeper quickly went up to them. He didn't seem to know Si Kongyao. He just asked with a smile, "May I know where the 3 of you are from and what's your identity?" Si Kongyao took out a crystal token and waved it in front of the innkeeper. The fatty looked stunned. It's the crystal token of the Tianji sect. "Oh my God, you must be Lady Si Kongyao of the Tianji sect. I have eyes but failed to recognize you. Please come in, please come in." As he spoke, his gaze fell on Lin Muyu and Lu Bai. These 2 people looked extremely poor. He asked, "Lady, these 2 are?" "They're my friends." "Do they have the right to stay here?" Si Kongyao asked calmly. "Yes, yes," the fatty nodded repeatedly. "Please come in, please come in." "Humph." Lu Bai glared at him. "Damn it, I feel like I've made a name for myself today." After entering the inn's lobby, a few maids came up to them and handed them handkerchiefs to relieve fatigue with smiles on their faces. Si Kongyao looked around and asked, "Is the young mistress of the Shang family here?" "The young mistress of the Shang family?" The fatty was stunned. He smiled and said, "You mean, the granddaughter of the Imperial General Zhangcheng, Miss Shangqian?" "That's right. She's here, she's waiting for you in the lobby. Lead the way." "Yes." Chapter 748. The granddaughter of the Empire's sacred martial god, Zhangcheng? Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. "How long has it been since I came to the Tianji Empire? I've already seen so many amazing people. Si Kongyao is the granddaughter of Si Kongming, the strongest expert in the celestial pole continent. Shangqian is the granddaughter of Zhangcheng, one of the sacred martial gods. There are only 5 sacred martial gods in the entire Tianji Empire. I'll soon see all their juniors, and they'll all be beauties. Could it be that people with high cultivation can change the genes of their descendants?" While he was sighing, Si Kongyao had already led the way into the parlor. The parlor of a small inn was extremely luxurious. It could even be compared with the side hall of the Zetian Palace. The red carpet was embroidered with golden patterns. It was extremely luxurious. Even the armrests and legs of the chairs in the parlor were inlaid with gems and gold edges. "Isn't it too extravagant?" Lin Muyu asked in a low voice, "Bai, how much does it cost to stay here for a night?" Lu Bai also said in a low voice, "I've never stayed here before, but I've heard of this inn. Every high official and noble will pass by here when they come to the imperial capital to meet the emperor. They'll stay here for a night to gain some of the nobility's aura. Staying here for a night will cost at least this much." He held up a finger. 100 gold coins? It's so expensive." Lin Muyu exclaimed. "What 100 gold coins? It's 10,000 gold coins." Lu Bai refuted his exclamation. Lin Muyu was a little confused. It seemed that the nobles of the Tianji Empire were even more extravagant than the nobles of Lanyan City. This was also a good thing. "Sister Shangqian, it's been a long time." Si Kongyao directly threw herself into the arms of a beauty. Lin Muyu took a look. Just as Si Kongyao said, Shangqian was a great beauty. She was at least 95 points. Her beauty was about the same as the 2 great beauties, Chu Yao and Ouyang Yen. Come, let me introduce you. Si Kongyao was very enthusiastic and smiled. Big sis Xianxia, this is the person I mentioned to you, the one who can fight a dragoon without falling into a disadvantageous position. Xianxia's gaze fell on Lin Muyu, and her eyes lit up. She bowed and said, Xianxia greets Sir Ranger. You're too polite, Miss Xiang. Lin Muyu nodded. This is Lu Bai. Si Kongyao smiled and said, our future companion's specialty is, reading people's brows, reading their faces, and also, cooking well, he he. However, Xianxia did not seem to have any interest in Lu Bai, and only nodded. Lin Muyu secretly frowned. If this world worshipped the strong, then Xianxia was too snobbish. Could it be that she looked down on Lu Bai just because his cultivation was low? Using the spirit pulse technique, she had an insight into the aura of the people around her. Xianxia's cultivation was about the first level of the Holy Realm, not very strong, but it was quite good for her age. Behind Xianxia, there were a few people dressed as servants. These people were very strong. There were a total of 7 people. The weakest was in the Holy King realm, and the strongest seemed to have the cultivation of the 30th level of the Grotto Martial King realm. That person was a middle-aged man with a short beard, and he seemed to be up to no good. Sister Xianxia, why don't you introduce yourself? Si Kongyao smiled lightly. Xianxia nodded and said, my name is Xianxia, the eldest daughter of the Shang family in Tianji City. My father is Shang Sun, a merchant. My grandfather passed away when I was young. My grandfather is Zhangcheng, one of the holy martial kings of the empire, and the commander of the Yanji Corps, one of the 4 great armies. Lin Muyu nodded and said, nice to meet you. Xianxia pointed at the short-bearded expert behind her and said, this is Uncle Chen Heng, the head of our Shang family's guards. This time I went out to play, and my father insisted that I let him follow me. Chen Heng squinted his eyes and took a deep look at Lin Muyu. He said, I heard that this young hero can fight with a dragon knight. You are really not simple. I'm honored to meet you. You flatter me, I was just lucky. Lin Muyu secretly scolded Si Kongyao for having a big mouth. How could she say such things? She was simply looking for trouble for herself. Xianxia seemed to have seen through Lin Muyu's thoughts. She smiled and said, although I was born in the Shang family, and it's a prestigious family in the imperial city, don't worry, young hero. We will keep your matters a secret. Don't worry. Thank you, Mississippi. Lin Muyu felt a little complicated in her heart. This woman was not simple. She was much more shrewd than the innocent and cute Si Kongyao. Xianxia continued, where do you want to travel to, young hero? Our Miss Sikong is determined to travel with you. It won't be good if I don't follow. Otherwise, if Grandpa Sikong Ming blames me, I won't be able to bear the consequences. Si Kongyao pouted her small mouth and said, I don't have, you're still talking. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed and said, I'll go to Tianji City first and see what the imperial city is like. Then, I'll go to the Celestial Empire, and then to the Blackstone Empire to experience the majesty of the 3 great empires. Oh. Xianxia smiled and said, the celestial pole continent is vast. I'm afraid it won't take 3 to 5 months to travel such a long distance. It doesn't matter. I have plenty of time. All right. Xianxia held Si Kongyao's hand and said with a smile, just in time. We can go back to the imperial city and enjoy the delicacies of Tianji City, right, Yao? Si Kongyao was delighted and said, yes, that's right. Chen Heng, on the other hand, remained silent the whole time. He folded his arms and quietly listened to the conversation for the past few days. But every time his gaze swept over Lin Muyu, there would be a trace of hostility. Obviously, this head of the guards had probably regarded Lin Muyu as an imaginary enemy. At this moment, a servant came in from outside the guest hall and said to Xianxia respectfully, Miss Shang, there's a young master outside asking to see you. Young master? Who is it? He claims to be the second son of the assistant minister of the Ministry of Rites. I won't see him. Xianxia frowned and said, we'll rest for the night and set off for Tianji City tomorrow. I won't see anyone. Yes, miss. Let's go. Xianxia smiled again and said, let's go to the side hall for dinner. You must be tired from the journey. All right. Si Kongyao nodded happily. Following behind Xianxia, Lin Muyu asked Si Kongyao in a low voice, Miss, what's the matter with the second son of the assistant minister of the Ministry of Rites? Si Kongyao stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, Sister Xianxia is already of marriageable age, so, many descendants of the prestigious families in the empire want to become the son-in-law of the Shang family. Moreover, old General Zhang Qing dotes on Sister Xianxia very much. She's practically the apple of both the Zhang family and the Shang family's eyes. Whoever can become Sister Xianxia's husband will instantly become a famous person in the Tianji Empire. I see, so, are you interested in pursuing her? Sister Xianxia is not only beautiful, but also has a gentle personality. Marrying her would be the blessing of 8 lifetimes. As for me. Lin Muyu smiled but didn't say anything. At this time, Xianxia seemed to have heard it as well. She turned around and glared at Si Kongyao, saying, Little girl, how did you learn to be a matchmaker at such a young age? You don't have to care about my matters, understand? I understand. Si Kongyao took a few quick steps forward and held Xianxia's hand. She said with a smile, but young hero is really a good person. He's very strong and easygoing. Look, he's also super handsome. Xianxia blushed, don't mention it, we don't even know his name. It's okay, it's not important. Just call him young hero. Lin Muyu, the banquet was extremely luxurious. There was almost none of the dishes on the table that Lin Muyu could name. There were all kinds of dishes that could fly in the sky, swim in the water, and run on the ground. Lu Bai had only heard of these dishes, so he ate them heartily. He didn't look like a VIP at all. Fortunately, Si Kongyao and Xianxia didn't seem to care. Only Chen Hang and the others looked at Lu Bai with disdain as he ate. Lin Muyu also ate a lot, but she tried her best to maintain the proper bearing. In fact, she wished she could buy some for supper. It was already late at night when they finished the banquet, so they went back to their rooms to rest. The next morning, they woke up early and continued their journey to Tianji City, the capital of this huge empire. When Lin Muyu and Lu Bai went out, they were instantly stunned. There was a gathering of carriages and horses outside the entrance of the inn. There were nobles dressed in brocade clothes standing there. Their faces were full of respect and every one of them was extremely attentive. Miss Shang, please sit in my carriage. This carriage has been perfumed. I guarantee there won't be any foul smell. Miss Shang, my carriage is gilded. Miss Xianxia, my carriage has been waiting for you for a long time. I am well versed in poems and songs. I can learn from you along the way. Miss Xianxia, please sit in my carriage. I have a good character and can last long enough. Also, I'm huge. Xianxia frowned, but she couldn't chase this group of people away openly. After all, these people were nobles' children. Many of their fathers were high-ranking officials in the capital. She couldn't afford to offend them. Si Kongyao smiled faintly. She led the warhorse over and said, Sister, let's ride a horse. Do you still remember the days when we galloped on horseback? Xianxia smiled cheerfully, okay. After raising the horsewhip and shouting, Xianxia and Si Kongyao left. Lin Muyu and Lu Bai were like 2 bodyguards. One followed closely, followed by Chen Hang and the other Shang family's bodyguards. The group of nobles who had prepared the carriage were dumbfounded. They said with hatred, Who is that man following Miss Shang? He must have eaten the guts of a leopard. Tens of thousands of horses galloped. Just like that, countless nobles' children followed Miss Xianxia on the official road. Xianxia rarely went out. Once she had such an opportunity, she wouldn't miss it. As for Si Kongyao, although she was a beauty, she was too unruly and willful. The number of followers she had beaten up was equivalent to an army. Who would dare to touch her tiger butt? Lin Muyu, who was galloping, was bewildered. Why didn't everyone pursue Si Kongyao but Xianxia? If it was her, she would choose Si Kongyao. She was lively, cute, pure, and could be ruthless when needed. Her personality was very similar to Tang Xiaoxi. She was so likable. These people from Heaven's Pole continent really couldn't understand her. Chapter 749. In Tianji City, the Tianji Imperial Palace stood majestically at the center of the capital city. On both sides of the palace were rows of commercial buildings, with smoke curling up from the chimneys. Between the largest dragonfish auction house and the army destroyer weapon shop, a rather simple and unadorned building stood there. It was like an old man who had been baptized by wind and rain for 1,000 years. Although he was old, he still possessed outstanding knowledge and extraordinary abilities. This building was known as the Battle Hall. Such battle halls could be seen everywhere in the Heavenly Pole continent. This battle hall in Tianji City was also the headquarters of the entire continent's battle halls. It was the cradle that nurtured genius experts. Countless cultivators were sparring with each other in the training field. Behind the battle hall was a very quiet pavilion with a green stone wall blocking its connection with the outside world. It was as if it was isolated from the world. Normally, no one would come here, and it was the best place for cultivation in the Tianji Empire. Here lived a highly respected old man, Si Kongming, the sect leader of the Tianji sect, the strongest expert in the entire celestial pole continent. There were Buddhist shrines floating on the surface of the water between the pavilions. An old man sat cross-legged on the surface of the water, but there was an icy lotus flower condensed beneath him. It was extremely mysterious. If one looked carefully, they would discover that there was an invisible force rippling on the surface of the water around the old man. It was like a cool breeze, warm, but concealed a hidden sharpness. Swish! In the air, a shadow swept across the water surface like a water bird treading on the water. When it was about 10 meters away from the old man, it stopped and stepped on the water surface without causing any ripples. Then, it knelt down on both knees and said respectfully, "Your Honor, there is news of young mistress." Oh? Si Kongming opened his eyes, which were full of vigor. He smiled and said, "That child Yao has been out for so many days. I have sensed her aura. She should be coming to Tianji City. Your Honor is wise." "Oh right." The martial artist frowned and said, "Young mistress came back with Xianxia from the Shang family. There are also 2 unfamiliar men who don't look like servants. One of them has a high cultivation, at least a Saint Martial Venerable. However, there is no record of this person in the Saint Register of the Battle Hall." "I understand." Si Kongming seemed to have already seen through everything. He smiled and said, "Let her be. Yao should make some new friends. Moreover, this person's aura doesn't have any hostility. Making friends with this kind of person is good for Yao." "Yes, Your Honor." "Then, do we need to send someone to follow them?" "No need." Si Kongming leisurely smiled, "I'm already following them." The martial artist's eyes lit up. "Yes, I understand. You may leave. Without my order, no one is to disturb my cultivation." "Yes." One day later, Tianji City welcomed a new group of travelers. When Lin Muyu, Liu Bai, and the others arrived at Tianji City, it was already dusk. In this prosperous imperial city, the lanterns had just been lit, and it was very lively. Looking at the towering pavilions and towers, Liu Bai was already speechless. He could only express his amazement with wah wah wah. Lin Muyu rode on the horse, quietly glancing at the buildings in Tianji City with her peripheral vision. The Tianji Empire was indeed prosperous and prosperous. Along the way, there were more than 50 blacksmith shops. If each blacksmith shop could produce 100 weapons a day, this city could produce more than 20,000 weapons a day. It was terrifying. Such a smelting ability was not inferior to that of Lanyan City. On the other side, Shang Qian looked at Lin Muyu intentionally or unintentionally. She was thinking silently in her heart. From the way he held the reins, she could tell that he was a person with excellent horsemanship. Even from the strength he used to whip the horse and the way he turned, she could tell that he was a person who had honed his horsemanship through hundreds of battles. Why would such a person become a friend of Si Kongyao? Shang Qian frowned but did not say anything. Later that night, they arranged for Lin Muyu and Liu Bai to stay in the best post house in Tianji City. Then, Shang Qian and Si Kongyao planned to go home to report that they were safe. The next day, they would pick up Lin Muyu and Liu Bai and travel to the territory of the Celestial Empire together. Although the three empires had frequent border conflicts, they did not really go to war. Otherwise, there would not be such a prosperous era. Each of the three empires had a sacred martial god expert. In addition, they had a strong military force, so they restrained each other. No one dared to take the initiative to start a war. Otherwise, they would inevitably become the target of public criticism. Therefore, this night, only Lin Muyu and Liu Bai were left in the post house. After eating dinner early, the two decided to go to the streets to watch the bustling scene. Anyway, it was still too early. It was not bad to see the bustling night of Tianji City. Lin Muyu was still dressed as a ranger. She was dressed in a loose grayish-white tight-fitting outfit with a worn-out animal skin wrapped around it. At first glance, it was obvious that she came from the mountains. If it was not for her extraordinary bearing, she would probably be mistaken for a hunter. As for Liu Bai, he was dressed in a long gown and looked like a fraud. The two of them walking on the streets of Tianji City did not attract much attention. At night, there were many restaurants on both sides of the street. The sound of drinking and playing games could be heard everywhere. Moreover, there were also some beautiful women on the street. This made Lin Muyu sigh with emotion. It turned out that there was such an industry here. Sure enough, PCs were the driving force of human economic development. Lin and E, shouldn't you get yourself a weapon? Asked Lin Muyu. After so many days of cultivation, Liu Bai could already generate genuine qi that was not too weak. In terms of classification, he should have almost stepped into the second heaven of the human realm. In any case, he could be considered as a scholar who had the strength to truss a chicken. Weapon? Liu Bai was stunned and said, "Young hero, I have never used a weapon. Can you help me choose one?" "Sure." Lin Muyu looked at his figure and said, "You are too thin and weak. It is not suitable for you to use heavy weapons. Hammers, battle axes, broadswords and the like are definitely not suitable for you. Then, I will choose weapons like short swords, daggers, short swords, or fans. Choose one yourself." "Daggers, short swords?" Liu Bai frowned. "It doesn't sound like a good person. I, Liu Bai, am a scholar. Heaven is jealous of geniuses. Pooh. I am a natural genius. If I can't use that kind of weapon, then I will use a fan." "I knew it." Lin Muyu secretly laughed. "What are you laughing at?" Liu Bai looked unhappy. "Why did you choose a fan?" "Because of dexterity." Liu Bai chuckled. "Moreover, he has an elegant demeanor and is extraordinarily handsome. Who knows, he might even be able to get himself a wife." "Oh, your life goal is to get a wife?" "Yes." "Young hero, you are so handsome. You will definitely not lack women. I am different. I am almost 30 years old and have never touched a woman's body. Ah, it is really sad to talk about it, I do too. Lin Muyu said casually. Is that so? Lu Bai's eyes lit up. He said with a smile, that is easy. Hasn't Miss Si Kongyao always wanted to recruit you into the Tianji sect? Moreover, I can tell that she likes you very much. She is just too shy to say it. As the saying goes, a man should take the initiative. Young hero, why don't you tell her to let Si Kongyao be your woman and you will join the Tianji sect? In my opinion. He counted with his fingers and rolled his eyes. A few seconds later, he said, I am at least 80% sure that Miss Si Kongyao will agree to it. Lin Muyu looked at him with disdain. You only think about this all day. Humph, I was wrong about you. Moreover, I don't want to die. If I dare to touch Si Kongyao, I guarantee that her grandfather will immediately jump out and fight me. I can't afford to offend an old grandfather with the cultivation of a martial god. Lu Bai laughed, look at you, I know you're scared. I think, maybe you've taken a fancy to that Shang family's Missy. After all, she's more feminine. That figure, the front and the back, stop drooling, my dear brother. You are a graceful scholar. Cough cough, the two of them walked into a blacksmith shop. Immediately, a skinny shopkeeper welcomed them with a face full of smiles. Are the two of you looking for weapons? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. My friend wants to buy an iron fan. Shopkeeper, do you have it in your shop? Yes, yes, yes. This way please. They came to a row of exquisite weapon racks. There were many fans on them. The price and material were marked on the side. The skinny shopkeeper picked one up and said, the frame of this fan is made of fine steel. It is as hard as iron. The surface of the fan is weaved with cloud silk. It cannot be cut by swords or sabers. It was forged by the capital's famous blacksmith, Gongya Mao. The price is 5,000 gold coins. Wow, 5,000 gold coins. So expensive? Lu Bai was dumbfounded. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. This guy was too embarrassing. She said, let me take a look. He took the fan and weighed it in his hand. After injecting his divine power into the fan to test the recoil, he said, it is indeed a good fan, but the material is not good enough, and the impurities have not been purified. With such a material, it cannot withstand the king's fighting flame of a sacred warrior. Shopkeeper, am I right? The shopkeeper was startled. He narrowed his eyes. This young man in front of him was not simple. His eyes were really sharp. Yes, yes, then what about this one? He quickly picked up another fan and said, customer, look. This fan has a name. It is called the Heavenly Secrets Fan. Oh. Lin Muyu took the fan and said with a smile, in terms of material, it is not as good as the one just now. That's right. However, young hero, don't forget its name. The Heavenly Secrets fan must have a secret inside. Saying that, the shopkeeper took back the fan and gently opened it. After pressing the mechanism at the bottom of the fan, shwa shwa shwa, several steel needles that were so thin that they couldn't be seen flew out and pierced into the stone wall. So sharp. Lu Bai was dumbstruck. This is a fan with hidden weapons. That's right. The shopkeeper was immensely proud of himself. This Heavenly Secrets fan can not only defend against enemies in battle, but it can also kill people invisibly. However, if it is not a mortal enemy, it is better not to use hidden weapons. We will take this fan. How much is it? Not expensive. 1,500 gold coins. Pay up, commoner. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and smiled. Lu Bai unwillingly took out the gold notes. At this time, he also realized that Lin Muyu was not a master who knew how to run a household. Just at this time, a cold voice suddenly came from behind. "Oh, so it is you too." Truly wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.